From Japan to Britain to Canada to Spain, wherever the Club Sport Series has gone, it has brought with it some intense racing. And today in Australia, it will be no different. Welcome one and all to RacespotTV on the iRacing Sports Network and to round number 5 in Season 3 of the Club Sport Series presented by DGFX to the 2.4 hours of Phillip Island. I'm Nolan Ramble, and joining me for today's 2-hour and 25-minute race is going to be the man himself, Randy Chenworth. This championship battle, it's still as tight as ever. Meraki Racing currently has first place with Hell Racers just 13 points behind, and Team Hella Media sitting third with 29 points behind in your sport class filled with Porsche 911 GT3 Cup cars. In the touring class, not so much really. You got the Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing team have been in complete control this season. Currently a solid 146 points ahead of CXR Project Black. And then, of course, you have the club class with the Mazda MX-5s, which has seen Hugh Jazz currently ahead, but only by 48 points of the Movano Sim Racing team. So, Randy, penultimate round of the third season of the Club Sports Series, and so far, every single race this season has been packed with action and drama. I think it's safe to say that with these title fights heating up in two of your classes, it's going to be no different here in Australia.
Yeah, you're right about that. Phillip Island is always a fireworks racetrack. Super exciting, relatively short lap around this place, but it's a really fast average speed that you get around here. Only a couple of really hard slowdowns, one going into turn 4 at the hairpin, and then the drop into Lukey Heights as well is the only time you're really going to get the car really probably below 100 miles an hour for most of the lap. But yeah, super fun racetrack, and I think you're going to see some drama and excitement here.
Currently 69 degrees Fahrenheit on the track as of right now, so a relatively cool track today. It's currently 10:30 a.m. in Sim, with winds gusting south at about 14 miles per hour. So a relatively cool track with some little bit of winds going on, 23 kilometers an hour for those winds. For those of you that are not familiar with the Imperial system, overcast skies right now, very cloudy around the track as you can see behind you. So everything shaping up the way it is, and it's shaping up to be a very good race. And as the time continues to tick away, we could be seeing that temperature start to increase as the race goes on, especially if that cloud cover starts to break.
Yeah, we might very well see that temperature change throughout the race, like you said, especially if you see that cloud cover break. But, you know, I think that's relatively unlikely. I think these guys are going to have what's going to make Nolan for really, really great track temperatures for themselves. It's going to be a fantastic race, like you said, starting at about 10:40 in the morning with this one. So we're going to get to about noon. It might warm up a little bit, but I think we're here stuck at 2021C for the bulk of this.
So for now, we got about a minute and a half left in qualifying for what is going to be the penultimate round here in the Club Sports Series presented by DGFX. Movano Sim Racing team, unsurprisingly, sits on pole for your club class. Of course, 3 different classes, and all 3 qualify in different orders. You got the what's really about a 15-minute session. You got the Porsches, which go off about 15 minutes, followed by the touring cars, and then, of course, the club class, who are just wrapping up in the final 60 seconds today. So, 3 different classes. You, of course, have the sport class with the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car, the TCR class with the Audi RS3 LMS, and then, of course, you have the club class with the Mazda Miata MX-5s. A class which has not seen a whole lot of love this season. Only 7 entries so far in this race today. Well, we got 8 entries in the race today, but usually we don't see that many. It was only 7 last month at Barcelona. So I had a bit of fireworks last month as well. So before we go to the starting grid, Randy, you think many of those fireworks will carry over today?
I think so. I think Phillip Island's going to put on an amazing show here. And especially with these classes, I think this track is going to work out really well. This can be a problem track if you're dealing with a bunch of cars that have varying downforce levels. So we've seen in the past, like the GT3 and Porsches be on track together here, because most of these cars really don't have a lot of aero. You might even argue that the second class, the middle class, that TCR Audi, might be the most aerodynamic of the bunch in terms of cornering ability. Because of the fact that that's all relatively calmed down, and none of these are really aero-dependent cars. I think you're going to see a relatively clean race potentially here today. But that said, always fireworks potential here at Phillip Island.
Only 2 cars currently on the circuit. It is Jarl Bernal for the World of Sim Racing team currently trying to put in a final lap, but he is going to bail out and go right down to the pits. one more car to leave the track. It's going to be Shipsky Racing as we continue to wait for the seconds to tick by here in qualifying. And he is also going to be pulling down to the lane. So far, no drivers are going to be setting any more hot laps. Your grid is fully set for today's race as we prepare to bring ourselves right down and hope to get a good race going today.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. I love this track. I love these cars. The Audi's still a very new car. That Porsche GT3, I know a lot of people have maybe forgotten about it, Nolan, because we've had that GT4 come out this week, and I know there's been a lot of love being shown to that brand new Porsche and an all-new category coming to the sim as well, but still great to see this Porsche Cup cars. We have another minute here left in the qualifying session, getting ready to tick down, and we'll get to your starting grid here in about 60 seconds.
So roughly 60 seconds before we can show you your starting grid, and with everything shaping up the way it is, of course, got that very tight championship battle, especially in the Porsche class. I honestly didn't expect it to be that close in the Porsche class. You would have thought that would come from the TCR class, but the top 3 drivers only separated by 30 points. And you could gain up to about 150 points in one race. So it's going to be very, very tight, especially in that top field, especially since their points leader not starting on pole.
Yeah, and that's going to make things really, really interesting once we get into this, Nolan. The championship fights, like you said, come down the last couple races of the season, and, everything's on it for the line here. And if you're not in a dominant position, this is the good race you have to set yourself up to be in a great position going into the final round. If you come out of here, if you're leading, in a close championship battle, or even if you're second, third in line there, if you have a bad race here today, it can potentially kill your championship hopes going into the final race. So this is really a must-do race in terms of performance here tonight.
And we have, of course, gotten qualifying figured out as we are suddenly plunged into darkness. 7 a.m. Now starting things off. So let's go over to your starting grid, and it's going to be Gold Racing Team teammates red and white starting 1-2 up in your sport class. For today, Lucas Lepere for Project GT Irons.de in 3rd place, with Hellraiser's Hampus Bas over in 4th place. Northside Racing and Team Hella Media in 5th and 6th. Nav Racing and Meraki Racing in 7th and 8th. Fisher Motorsport and SlowRacing.com Esports in 9th and 10th. Row 6 with Huge Ass Porsche and Fisher Motorsports. Team Hella Media 13th and 14th, with SRT Esports Green in 15th and 16th. Randy, you have our TCR class.
We'll get to those in a moment as we run down your sports graphic. Had a little bit of a slow up on my end, but that's all right. But through our touring car, that's going to be Team Husingfield 148 with Michael Schottler on that front row. Steen Ledger from Full Send Racing will represent the outside of that front row. Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing's Blake Neck and RacespotTV ClubSport's Rudolph Nagel will start 3rd and 4th. It's FAC Auto Tech Sim Racing and CXR Project Black 5th and 6th. 7th and 8th, we got Full Send and German Sim Racing. Huge Ass Audi and Graphite Racing will round out your top 10 in your middle category. VEC Sim Racing will both roll off on the 6th row. Element Sim Racing and Team Vikings on 7. E-Team Brit and Real Pixel Motorsport on row 8, with Graphite Racing and another Full Send car on row 9. CXR Project Black and Real Pixel Motorsport will round out the 20-car field in your Audis. And you have the Mazda class for us.
Only 4 rows in the Mazda class is, of course, Movado Sim Racing Team once again on pole. What else is new? Shipsky Racing down in 2nd place, with the huge-ass Mazda in 3rd. Cali Alpha Racing in 4th. World of Sim Racing Team and Tri Racing 5th and 6th. CXR Project Black down in 7th place, with German Sim Racing Orange rounding off that 8-car field. Cars are beginning to roll off on their one and only pace lap here at Phillip Island. So we thought we were racing until noon, but turns out we're going to be racing into the dawn. As it turns out, we ran into the night at Barcelona. Well, it's going to be the other way around here. So 7 a.m. start, as it turns out, and with the lights illuminating around the cars, track temperatures, noteworthy, have dropped. 65 degrees Fahrenheit now on the track. So dropped 4 degrees from what it was originally. Winds still having about the same, so not too much, but every little bit counts.
Yeah, it's not a huge drop, Nolan, but what that means is that there's not going to be nearly as much heat being pumped into the circuit. It's going to be a much cooler track temp for all these guys to have and to utilize. So it's going to take a lot longer for this track to get warmed up than it would have otherwise, and we're getting ready to go racing here as these guys head into the last sequence of, well, they head off towards Siberia, rather, excuse me. A little bit confused over the hairpin. That was a Honda hairpin. I thought we were down to Lukey Heights, but yeah, it's going to take a lot more to get this track warmed up, and it's going to be a lot more difficult for these guys to see. I'm not going to lie, I wasn't expecting to plunge into darkness either.
Well, that makes it all the more interesting, doesn't it? You know, night races tend to be where the chaos ensues, and, well, if there's one thing the ClubSport series is good at, it's definitely putting on a good fireworks show in the first 30 minutes of the race. So now they are going to be rounding around through the final few corners. I believe they're coming through Lukey Heights now, so, which they are. So, you know, the plunge in temperatures, though, like you said, it's going to be an issue with colder tires, especially for these 911 GT3 Cup cars. Of course, a lot of drivers throughout the season have been reporting that with the new tire models, these V7 tires, it's like driving on ice on cold tires. So, could make for a bit of an interesting side-by-side battles going down into turn number 1.
Yep, that it could, and pace car comes off, Nolan, and these guys get stacked up, and we're just about ready to go as huge checkup through the Porsche field.
Big checkup as everybody tries to bunch it together. Leader going to be those two Gold Racing Team members. They're going to be holding the field, waiting for the restart zone. Past the line to start the DRS zone, and it is green, green, green. The green flag flies. It's a great jump from Jean-Philippe Gendron. Terrible start from Garzano, though, from second place, who checks out the field again. Double file, but they're 3 wide in the back as they run down towards turn number 1. Everybody looking to make it through safe and sound, nearly making contact between Rev Match Esports and Team Hella Media. Your Porsche class, though, safely through turn number 1.
Yep, and we'll check in with your Audis and your touring cars already let loose. Team Husingveld 148. We saw pandemonium in the Porsches through turn 1 a little bit, but single file through about your top 10. You see a little bit of 3 wide, 2 wide rather, as they work into the southern loop in your mid-pack. We're looking at John Ford and Graphite Racing number 192 right now in your mid-pack as your front-wheel drive Audis get themselves sorted, and now it's time for the little cars. MX-5s are off as well.
So the MX-5's off and away while one car has gone into the sand at the Honda hairpin. Rev Match Esports RB Scaleworks having some issues. Might have been some cold tires while under braking. It was car number 13 that went it off, and he actually locked the brakes up trying to avoid Team Alameda, which was cutting across the track.
Yeah, you see that Porsche right now in the mix of all your Audis, so we'll get a quick little replay of this, of what happened to Rev Match Esports Scaleworks, and there you can see the car is already in the dirt, so we'll rewind it just a little bit further. But see that white, pink, and blue car, very vibrant there in the middle, and things is just going down in towards the Honda hairpin here, Nolan. Very easy mistake to make, and you see that. You talked about the new tire model and the fact that these cars are pretty sketchy on cold tires. One driver already getting caught out by that as they headed into the hairpin. As we come back to live pictures, and we'll check back in with your Porsche leaders.
So far, Jean-Philippe Gendron maintaining a pretty solid lead over his teammate, Jeffrey Garzado. Garzado might be looking to hold up Hampus Baz there in that Hell Racers machine. Remember, Hell Racers presently is sitting at about second place in points, about 13 points. Back down from the leader now. So Baz trying to find a way through to pick up whatever points he can. Runs a little wide, almost gets into the grass. And now it is going to be Matthias Havdahl from Team Hella Media and Luc Slaper from Project GTI to put Baz down a couple spots, and now he's on the defensive going into Honda.
Yeah, a little bit defensive, a little bit of contact actually behind, I heard, so maybe a little bumpy. That is one thing that can happen if you go in towards Honda, Nolan. You come out of Stoner at turn 3, it's that fast left-hand sweeper, and you get brought down into the slow right-hand hairpin, and that's pretty much the one trouble spot on the track. You will constantly have bumper-to-bumper contact. I see taillights off into the darkness. Who is that? That is James LeBlond from SRT Esport Green. How did he end up here?
Oh, we'll have to go back to a replay and give it a little look-see. I have a feeling it might have been a missed braking point and getting that back end. Stepped down just a little bit. We'll have to wait and see how this one will play out, though. So currently on the throttle, out from the Honda hairpin, and working his way throughout the track, and ran a bit wide through the corner. Locked it down, but yeah, once you go off there, you're going head on into the tire barriers.
Yeah, there's really not a lot you can do. We'll check back in with your class leaders. They'll come across start finish. Let's look at your Audi touring car class. This is close between Full Send Racing and Team Husingveld for first and second. Team Husingveld still leads. Full Send Racing 185 still sitting in the second spot as they work through that final corner and onto the front straightaway. And Talked about the fact that these might be the draggiest cars that we have in the category, Nolan. Maybe a little bit of slipstream to be had down this front straightaway, but I don't think these cars get quite fast enough down the straight, and they're not on this straight long enough, I think, for the draft to really be too much in play here. They don't have enough drag to really punch a huge hole in the air at a track like this, so if you're going to make passes, you basically have to do it physically by just getting the better run off the corner.
That's part of the nature of Phillip Island, is the fact that there aren't a whole lot of actual straight parts on this track. A lot of the corners just feed one into the other. It's very hard to find a decent passing opportunity. You know, the best opportunities you got are really in the braking zones down into the two hairpins of MG and Honda. So those are the two better passing opportunities on the circuit. Got some double file racing in that TCR class just behind them. Current Team Vikings Blainer trying to find his way around the VEC Sim Racing machine. That 127 car trying to hold on around the inside line, and he's going to get that move all safe and sound. Oh, the contact behind them and almost losing it was Element Sim Racing in the 107 to the door of the 103 for that Team Vikings machine. Two cars again making contact, getting a little sideways, but both managing to hang on.
I think just as I clicked the cameras away, that happened. So rewind the cameras back 30 seconds, see what happened, and see this big bunch of cars as they go through Honda hairpin, and they come out onto this next little straightaway, and it's going to be into Siberia. And this is what makes this track so fun, Nolan, is that that entire sequence from these there, you see the contact, a little bit of a slide. Luckily, these guys front wheel drive, so basically just put your keep your foot pinned, and it'll save you. What's so fun is coming through out of turn 2, that run into turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, all the way down in Siberia. It's basically always switching back and forth, and you can make both lines work. You can set passes up on the outside of turn 3, on the outside of Dew and going into Honda. You can set a pass up on the outside of turn 4, going into Siberia, and you can defend and set up a pass around the outside of Siberia as well. And you get great racing at this racetrack because of it, because there is those sectors where you can stay side by side for so long, but there's a couple where you better get single file. The first sector, corners 1 and 2, definitely a point of the track where you need to be single filed out, and that last sector as well is relatively single file running, as I think SRT Esport Green, that Porsche, trying to work its way through TCR traffic now.
So James LeBlanc trying to fight his way through, and the problem with this Porsche is that they're not going to be getting the blue flag because they are all on the same lap. So LeBlanc has to try to find his way through physically, because those TCRs, they don't have to get out of his way. So that's going to be a bit of an issue for him to try to work his way through. Checking in with that Miata field. Currently, Marcello Pajnan for the Movado Sim Racing team pulling a 3.2 second gap over Shipsky Racing very early on. So Movado having a very good start to their race. Of course, we do know that those drivers, they've got some of the best MX-5 racers on the sim. So Movado have got a great team behind them, and already your race leaders, once again, before we reach 10 minutes in, hitting lap traffic.
Yeah, they're already hitting these MX-5s, and you can see the difference in closing speeds is enormous here, even with these cars not being particularly high level of downforce. And into Honda, going to be the 61, the first one who's really forced offline here down at Honda corner, but going to be able to get through it is Matthias Havdalp. Then the Team Helmedia at number 61 will go a little bit further back into this little bigger gaggle of Porsches that's working their way through the MX-5 traffic right now. We're right on board with Lewis Ward from Merkai Racing, number 97, the MX-5 on the left, and they're going to be pretty busy with this for a little bit. And I'd say if you're one of these Porsches here, Nolan, dealing with this traffic, this is the phase of the race. And when you're going through traffic like this, just stay single file and just cruise for a little bit. Don't get yourself over aggressive trying to make moves happen with such slow traffic around you, especially when there's 4 of you lined up nose to tail like this.
Oh, absolutely, Randy. You got to be patient at a track like this. But Lewis Ward, he might not be thinking that right now, because remember, Lewis Ward and Merkai Racing, remember, they are currently ahead in the point standings for that sport class, but only by 13. So the way things sit right now, they would lose not 1 but 2 places and drop down to at least 3rd, because Hell Races and Team Hella Media, both less than 30 points behind them, are currently ahead of them on track right now. So Merkai Racing, if they want to hang on to this championship lead, they got to find something in that car, and they need to push hard to make sure that they can stay in front of these guys.
Yeah, definitely a balance has to be struck, because still you see these guys struggling getting around the MX-5. They work through the southern loop, so you definitely need to be on your game as best as you possibly can. check back in with TCR a little bit here to see if we got any close fights. About a second in category between P3 and P4 in class. I see a 6/10 gap here. This is Full Send Racing 187 and Graphite Racing 192. They're nearly nose to tail. You see the duo behind hooked up as well, but we'll stay here. They're going to go side by side in a 1.
Side by side, down in the turn number 1. It's usually a bit of a more of a risky move because, as you and I both very well know, turn 1, not the best passing opportunity, but they will get themselves single filed out and looking all clean and green for now. Paul Van Loon, very much known in this series, to try to make those a bit more aggressive moves, and he's probably going to try to find a way around the CXR Project Black machine of Ruben Schilt quickly here. He's not be able to focus on that right now, though. Now he's got to focus on defending from John Ford in the 192 Graphite Racing machine. Ford going to go up the inside, down to the Honda hairpin. Both cars able to get on the brakes and get it stopped in time, and that was a clean pass for Ford.
Yeah, it was, and you see already setting up a move behind as well. That car that's trailing in this little gaggle, trying to make up the move. I think this VEC Sim Racing, indeed it is, and maybe thinking about 3 wide, full send on the left-hand side. Not really getting a good exit there, Nolan, and the 172 really, I think, had the momentum off the corner, but nowhere to go with it. Thought better of it than making it 3 wide through Lukey Heights here, and still you see holding strong on the outside is that number 192 Graphite Racing machine, and dropping down now into Lukey Heights, still just about single file out, but still trying to fight through his Graphite on the right-hand side.
So that VEC Sim Racing machine definitely trying to work his way up, and now it is John Ford that is going to be under attack from that 172 machine. So it just goes to show you how much the favorite can swing back and forth in favor of different drivers across the track. It's a very well-balanced track, in all honesty. You know, you got a couple drivers that will be able to make up their own moves. It looks like we've just had a pass. Team Hella Media, Matthias Havdahl, up past Jean-Philippe Gendron for the Gold Racing Team Red Machine.
I imagine this likely started somewhere around turn 1. Trying to see what in the world happened. I don't know why my cameras rewound back an entire lap, but we'll rewind the cameras and we'll see what happened here between these two to see the second spot change hands. You see GRT getting a little bit sideways there, and well, Team Hella Media pretty much immediately pounces there, Nolan, but I think at some point GRT got something back in terms of providing a little bit more pressure. Maybe down to Lukey Heights made a move here, but regardless, that's Hella Media up into P2.
Paul Van Loon's Full Send Racing has been having some struggles. He just went off in turn number 1 a little while ago, so that 187 touring card having some struggles, and he's now having to defend against Frank Oosterhuis, the other Graphite Racing machine, and trying to pin him down to the apex. So Lowen has lost a few positions now, and he's going to be trying to have to work them back. And oh, dearie me, we've just had one driver who has just been given a black flag for a jump start on the restart. Drivers do have to wait for a particular restart zone, and, well, it looks like 1 or 2 drivers might have jumped that restart.
Yeah, that's what we're taking a look right now. It's looking like it was the 60. That's the Team Hella Media number 60. You see this car down on towards pit road. This is not the car that just made up P2. This is the car that's running a little bit down the order. We also had another one, I think, possibly as well, but stop and go served. And, well, you see all that traffic on the left-hand side of your screen. On the right-hand side of the racetrack, though, it's actually taking a longer pit exit. I don't think you normally have to go this long pit exit. I think you can just cut out through that little short chute. But regardless, he'll take the long exit down here in towards turn 1. But that is not what you want to be seeing here, Nolan. This early on in the race, to have that much traffic out ahead of you. This is going to be a race killer for them.
Oh, absolutely. That's it's really a disaster for the Team Hella Media machine, who are going to have a very hard charge back up through that entire touring car field right ahead of them. It's going to get interesting to see how that 60 car will be able to work his way up the field, but that has allowed the GRT Racing boys just a little bit of breathing room up in front.
Yeah, just a little bit, and it's going to, give them a little bit of, like you said, space. But that said, the GRT car is still separated by the Team Hella Media number 61 that we know was clean on the start. At least if they weren't, they haven't been called down down onto the pit lane just yet. But regardless, things starting to spread out here, Nolan. Our two faster classes, the Porsches got to the MX-5s, of course, a little bit quicker than everyone else did, and the Audi is currently working their way through that MX-5 traffic right now, and because of that, we're starting to see these classes really start to spread out here. Of course, this racetrack, just the nature of it, it's really hard to be, gaggled up on top of one another, especially when the interclass traffic comes into play. Races tend to really get strung out here.
They really do, and we can already see this playing into full effect. We usually see the cars getting a little more bunched up just behind some of the slower traffic, and then immediately, getting spread out as one car by one car managed to work their way through. And for now, it is looking like some of the touring cars, as always, they seem to be some of the closer fights on the field. So it's definitely not uncommon to see. Battle is on for the lead in your TCR class. Team Honchenfeld's Michael Scholetter racing with Full Send Racing's Steam Ledger.
Yeah, and Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing as well in P3. They're only a couple of tenths back, so this is 3 cars all scrapping for your race lead as they exit Honda Corner and end up here in towards Siberia. And of course, this is going to be one of the interesting classes here, I think, to watch, Nolan. Of course, the new tire model, really a big talking point. NTM7, a handful of the cars getting it on this new build. Of course, we're still on the build week. It's still week 13 after all. But this car had the new tire model previously, but I know that there's been some changes to it, and one of the big things that's going to be interesting to watch in this one is how this car is responding to those changes and how the teams are responding to those changes to how the tire is working. It's entirely possible that teams that were strong on the previous iteration may not be as strong now since the updates, may not have that new tire compound quite figured out. And of course, the inverse, more than potentially true as well. There might be teams that are really strong in this new version that weren't as good before the updates. Full Send seems to have a run as they head on a front straight.
That tiny bit of slipstream could be coming into play here. Running down towards turn number 1, Team Honchenfeld, they are looking to go back-to-back wins. They did win the 4 Hours of Barcelona, which took place just last month over in February. So still trying to find a way through, and they've had a Porsche, RevMatch Esports, who's come out right ahead of them. So almost having to deal with some more traffic that would be trying to get around them. It doesn't look like that's going to be much of an issue for now. Ledger was not able to get that run down the front straightaway. Now through the southern loop, he's going to be trying to maybe make a look down into the Honda hairpin. Potential dive bomb coming up here. That car is titled Full Send Racing after all. Not elected to go for that maneuver just yet. It's a bit early for that after all.
Yeah, we're barely 20 minutes into this. Well, not even. We're 15 minutes into this race, 2 hours and 25 minutes on the run time. And actually, Nolan, talking about that, how do you think that's going to affect the strategy? Because that's not a race distance we typically see these days in these sort of endurance races. I know if you go years back, if you go 2012, 2013, even 2014, before the driver swap feature was around, this sort of distance was actually really common. 2 hours, 24 minutes, 25 minutes, 2 hours and a half, 2 hours even. We don't see that nearly as much on the sim. How do you think that's going to affect the strategy? Just the fact that this is sort of a uncharted territory for a lot of these guys. I imagine it's going to be at least one full stop for most of these classes and maybe a second short stop, but I wouldn't be surprised knowing the Mazda I know gets very good fuel mileage. I wouldn't be surprised if they can single stop it. Same with these TCR cars. They might be in for a single stop here just on fuel, but tires actually might be an interesting mix as well. And the Porsches I know tend to get great fuel economy also.
Well, we've seen double stinting be a thing in the past for fuel-only stops, especially for the classes, where you have to take the fuel and tires separately, particularly the Porsches in that regard. So, double stinting the tires is certainly something we could look for in the strategy as well here. One other thing we need to note as well is that here in the Club Sport series, you do need to have, each driver needs to have a minimum of 45 minutes of seat time in the car. There's no rule saying when you can do that, and it can be split up, but you have to have at least 45 minutes in the car for the drivers. So that'll be one thing we're going to have to look out for as well, is who's going to get their gold driver and their bronze drivers in first and who's going to put them in later. And of course, the fuel is going to be a big issue as well. A lot of these cars, their fuel window is looking between 50 minutes to about an hour. And with a 2 hour, 25-minute fuel window, it's definitely not going to equate to an even number of stops there.
Yeah, and the thing that's really interesting in that, Nolan, you talk about the different driver requirements and having the quote-unquote lower-rated driver having to do a 45-minute minimum. That is actually a really interesting question to ask, because normal sports car thinking is to put the fast guy in at the start. And the problem is that if you do that, if you can only run about an hour, suddenly your quote-unquote slower driver is only in there for an hour and 25 minutes of the race. So what do what choice do you make in that regard? Do you, maybe lose some spots early on and put your bronze driver in early, or do you put them in here? Do you put your fast driver in now, or do you put the slow driver in later on? Really interesting dynamic that these teams have to work with that you really don't see, like I said, as frequently in a lot of these other series.
We've seen, several different strategies in the past. I mean, one race that comes to my mind is Brands Hatch, and even at Okoyama, particularly for fuel as well, 2.4 hours of Okoyama. Okoyama, yeah.
You're thinking of Yokohama, the tires, the tire company.
I'm getting two words confused again, so I do apologize there. But the very first race we had in the season, one of our class leaders, I forget which one it was, but they were looking to be set for a race win, and they ran out of fuel with just a few minutes left to go and had to make an extra splash to go, and they killed their race. So with all the different strategies playing together, you got to try to multitask really all the strategies to juggle everything together. It's a very interesting factor to see for a lot of these teams, and I can see up there in the Porsche class, a couple of your battles up there are getting a bit heated up as well. One of them being the battle for fourth, which currently has about 4 drivers in it, and they're working their way through TCR traffic as well. They're right behind it, and look at that gaggle of cars. It's like a hornet's nest out there.
Yeah, huge chunk of cars here. They're getting ready to make the run down in towards Lukey Heights. You see them fanning out all over the place. As we're looking at the number 86 right now. That's Project GTIns.de. As we'll just we'll drag our focus away for a moment. This is also the fight for your Porsche lead. This gap had been relatively stagnant, about 7 to 8 tenths of a second. For the last couple laps, Matthias Havdahl has been able to reel that gap down to about 3 tenths, and you can see your class-leading Porsche, the Gold Racing Team white car, has lap traffic in front of him. A couple of Audi TCRs. I think these are the first couple Audis basically he's going to be lapping, and yeah, they're basically the last 2 Audis currently running out there on the racetrack. Him and actually second place running Team Hill Media number 61, both will get through, but now those Porsches starting to catch up to those front-wheel drive touring cars.
So we're going to have to wait and see just what this will begin to, mean for your fight for the lead. Currently, Jeffrey Garzato does hold that race lead, and he's trying to hang on to it against Matthias Havdahl. Both drivers are drivers that we've seen be unbelievably aggressive in the past, trying to go for positions when they need to be. So they both know what needs to get done, but right now, Havdahl seems to have that overall pace earlier on in the race.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's definitely a pace advantage here, but things are still close, as you can see. Still relatively nose to tail as they work out. Still a couple of Audis in front of them. This is going to be the 198 they get to next, and they're going to have to single file out. It's going to be 2 Audis on stage left, 2 Porsches on stage right. These guys are going to have to play nicely with one another. This is going to get tight in the Lukey Heights.
GRT almost getting run wide, and one of the Audis, the CXR Project Black Machine, tried to make a look, and I don't know if he realized that there was another car right behind him, but that just about ended in complete disaster with that Helen Media car having to take a little bit of a fairly evasive action. They managed to get it through all safe and sound, so that battle for the lead still going to be heating up, and this is a very common occurrence to see here in this series, Randy, where you see a fight start to get close, and then lap traffic usually has something to play in it. About probably of the 5, if you count 5 battles in a race, at least 3 or 4 of them are going to be, lap traffic is going to decide something about it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, definitely, and it could go either way. The lap traffic can be both a blessing and a curse to you. It can close the fight in, or it can spread that fight back out. It really, lap traffic really does not care in that regard about anything else. But Helen Media now trying to do everything they can to reel that gap down and in. Still a fair amount of traffic ahead of your race-leading cars here. Still a handful of Audis, like we said. They're now in the midst of this Audi category, which is by far the largest category on track, so a ton of traffic that the Porsches will have to deal with. And there's a couple slower Porsches in that mix as well, so Gold Racing Team White going to have a heck of a time trying to find their way through here. You also see that orange Hella Media car in front of your current class leader that we're currently looking at. That is the one that served the penalty early on. They're getting ready to go a full lap down here.
So some cars preparing to go the full lap down and have to give up that entirely. So Steven Ledger and Michael Schletter for the Team Hohenfeld. Of course, you battle for the TCR lead. So, two drivers that are going to have to make way for the overall race leader, Jeffrey Garzado. Usually, we don't see the TCRs getting lapped this early, but like you said earlier, very short laps here at Phillip Island. Definitely not the longest track in the world. And Garzado, nice and patient getting around him, and he's actually about to lap cars in his own class now for the Team Helen Media Machine.
Yep. And actually, the one thing here is that they've actually cleared the Audi traffic now. Those last two Audis that you see behind that Helen Media car now, those are your class-leading Audi TCR cars. So not much traffic left in front of these guys until they start getting to the back of, it'll either be Mazdas or Audis, depending on how things flow. It's not always consistent. And you can see pulling over the track left, that's the slower Helen Media car. Lets both the Gold Racing Team White car and their sister car through. And into a little bit of Mazda lap traffic here. Is things still close? We'll check back in with your Audi TCR fight. As I'd check in a little bit more often with the MX-5s here, Nolan. But let's be real. Right now, it's just Movano Sim Racing Team dominating. Already a 15-second advantage, and they're only coming to the end of lap 13. So not a lot to really talk about in this category. I'll kind of click down and show you the gaps, but really spread out here. Although this fight for P4, P5 between Huge Ass and Tri Racing, this is going to be an interesting one to watch potentially over this race as well.
Well, in all honesty, the fact that Movado is leading is not a terrible surprise. Remember, at Barcelona, they lapped their entire field twice. And that's at Barcelona. That's a pretty long track for Mazda Miata, so not an easy feat, to say the least, but Movado managed to do it. So usually the fights in Miatas are kind of shortcoming, but battle for fourth place, it's not something we see too often, these battles for positions in your club class, but like you said, something to definitely keep our eyes on as time continues to move along in the race.
Yep, but we will, of course, have to check back in for the fight for your race-leading Audis. There's a little bit of lap traffic dealing with that Gold Racing Team Red car. I think is who that is. Side by side. This is actually 16. This is not lap traffic. This is P3 and P4. They're side by side in your sport class through turn 1 and into turn 2. Hell Racers doing everything they can to get by. They make it aggressive on the entry into the southern loop, but the 22 works the cutback greatly. 3 wide with an MX-5.
All right, Hampus Baz is ready to go. Clearly, he's not afraid to make some moves, and Jean-Philippe Gendron, will he go on the defensive? He will not, because he knows that Baz is not quite close enough to reasonably make a dive. But Hampus Baz, he's wanting to go. He realizes that he can have a run at the championship lead here coming out of the race today, and that's something he definitely wants to go for. So the battle for fourth place certainly heated up as well.
Yeah, it definitely is, but the 16, unfortunately, not able to get that pass complete, and you see an MX-5 these guys having to deal with, and this is the real difficulty, I think, of this combination of cars in this track here, Nolan, is that it just about when you start thinking that you can make a move on someone, the track either goes away from you and you get into lap traffic, and Gold Racing Team right there, the red machine, currently running third, maybe thinking they can maybe break away, and that 252 MX-5 checks them up. Hell Racer's like, yes, we might have an opportunity, but then they have to go around the outside of the second and final corner, and then that checks them up. So that gap's going to remain relatively stagnant when it's all said and done. 10th of a second also separating your leading cars in this category as they stream into one.
Down into turn number 1. Once again, things are looking tight behind them, side by side in that battle for 5th place as well. Now Racing having to go at Northside Racing around the inside of turn 1, and that didn't end up coming to anything. They're looking to go side by side again down into turn number 2, but Frank Van Brandwijk not close enough to make anything work. And you got 7th place behind the Luke Lepere for the Project GT9's machine, trying to see if he can get involved in the mix of things with Alan Groth for Northside Racing, leading this 3-car train.
Yeah, there's too many places where we need to be pointing the camera right now here, Noel. We've got the Audi fight that's still relatively close. You have the Porsche lead fight that's actually changed. Team Hella Media number 61, they're up into the point. We'll get a replay of how they got this. I feel like it happened down into Honda.
There it is. Was it a move under braking? Did he clear it around the outside, side by side, and did not clear him, but it was likely that move into Siberia. He had the nose in there, and he's able to keep it ahead, and sure enough, that's exactly what it was. Nothing that Gold Racing Team machine was able to do about it.
Yeah, I said it earlier. I mentioned the fact that you could really set a move up through Honda to make the move in Siberia, and that's exactly what we saw. And what has changed the lead's hands here in your Porsche category. See, I'm not sure why the 2 is trying to slipstream off the MX-5. I wouldn't advise that. That Porsche with the big rear wing, Nolan, is going to always be punching a bigger hole in the air, and you're going to have it in front of you for longer. So I'm not sure what Jeffrey Garzato is thinking there, trying to draft on that MX-5. Not only that, but the closing speed is so large that you're going to have to dart out so quickly. I don't think you're going to be feeling much of the slipstream as well.
Well, the Club Sport Series has definitely been a series of experimentation. You know, every race has brought a new challenge. So, you know, sometimes you got to try a couple things if you want to get around a driver. And again, I agree. Not quite sure that that was exactly the right move to make, but you know, it's one of those things where you'll know that for next time. And now with more live traffic, got one Miata actually off the track right behind the touring cars that we just saw. It was one of those red cars. I'm going to see if I can get eyes on who that was. I believe it might have been the one of the Movano cars or the German Sim Racing Orange machine.
Well, there's only one Movano car, so I'm trying to see. Yeah, German Sim Racing Orange. They've actually pulled the car off the track, it looks like. Oh, German Sim Racing Orange never took the start, Nolan, so 10 out of 10.
All right, well, I'll correct myself on that one. So it looks like one of the MX-5 is having some difficulties, shall we say. And actually, we got one other car that's off ahead of them. SRT Esports Green, the number 69 Porsche, has just gone off on the exit of the MG Hairpin. Might have had some help with him as well. It was down in the braking zone, and well, no damage on the back end, so potentially might have done that one all to himself, maybe getting on the power and got a little too antsy. In fact, that's exactly what's happened there.
Yeah, just a little bit throttle happy. Of course, we're about 30 minutes into the stint here, Nolan. This is sort of the phase that you might be feeling a little bit of pain on the tires, but that'd be a little bit odd for these Porsches. We know that these 911 GT3 cars, GT3 Cup cars rather, the tires tend to last a pretty decent amount of time, and you can definitely double stint them, so they shouldn't be having any tire troubles yet. But regardless, definitely struggling with the rear traction in that number 69, and you're going to go around some lap traffic and start another lap here. We'll check back in with your lead fight, and well, Jeffrey Garzato not quite able to reel that gap back in, so opened up to about a second now as they currently run.
So currently opening that gap up to a second, a swap for positions elsewhere. 10th place, I believe in your TCR field, the 187 car, Paul Van Loon, getting a move done around the German Sim Racing Cyan TCR on the exit of the final corner down the front straightaway. So, you know, positions are still swapping back and forth, and up ahead, I believe that's your battle for third place, excuse me, in your MX-5 field that they're working their way through as well.
Yeah, I think that's that fight we saw earlier between the huge ass car, and I believe it was Tri Racing, if I recall correctly. Nope, it was World of Sim Racing Team. I did not recall correctly, but regardless, these guys close, letting that trio of Audis through. You see one of them really squirming on the brakes there in your touring car category, but everything's kind of a-okay beyond that. Of course, this Audi really weird in the sense here, Nolan, because it's the only car on the service that we have that utilizes that brake valve. You know, most all the cars that we have adjustable brake bias, but this has an extra setting in it that allows you to actively kind of change it's almost like a brake bias super adjustment. It just comes out in larger percentages is the best way to explain it, and a lot of teams, a lot of drivers will play with that over the course of a stint, and I have a feeling some people probably playing with those settings now, trying to get the most out of them. I am actually curious, is this the first time we've seen these cars under the lights, or rather in a sort of really early morning environment? Because from what I can recall, I don't think we've ever seen the cars on track kind of this early in the morning on this cool of real track conditions.
Well, we saw them racing into the dusk, definitely under the lights of Barcelona last week, but I can't recall either when we had the racing in the morning, as there goes Tailguard trying to work his way back around Schlafman for the German Racing Cyan machine. That move will be nice and secure as well. So German Racing Cyan losing out on yet another position to Team Vikings. And forgive me if I pronounce this wrong. I know I'm going to. Team Vikings Mjolnir. Did I get that right, or did I not?
Mjolnir.
I was decently close. I'll take that as a win. So Team Vikings Mjolnir, they're trying to work their way out through the field as well, it would seem.
Yeah, so I mean, he's definitely doing everything they can there. Mjolnir. Is it okay if we just say Thor's hammer, or maybe even Master Chief's armor? I think that would definitely be easier to pronounce. But yeah, Team Vikings doing everything they can to sort of work their way back forward here, and maybe having some sort of issue. They actually didn't qualify all that well here. They're up a few spots from where they started, so Team Vikings doing very, very well on this, as we'll check back in with your TCR lead, and Usingfeld looks like starting to open up that gap. Remember how close this was about 10 laps ago, Nolan? It's now about a 1.5-second gap, so still close, but not nearly the pressure being put on Michael that he was having to deal with earlier.
I think at this point, Steen Ledger might have burned up all his energy in the early part of the race, trying to get that lead and stick with it. But for what we've been able to see, especially at Barcelona, Team Hoenschenfeld, they really know how to play the long game. And I think that's what they're trying to do already. You got to start thinking long game right away, especially when you got such an odd kind of time set for your race, 2 hours and 25 minutes. We're about an hour and 51 minutes, so roughly 35 minutes now into this race. So, Hoenschenfeld, they really know how to play the long game. I think they got a little plan in mind, and that's already something they're putting into effect right now.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. But, I mean, it's always good when you can play the long game and be the quickest in the short game as well. So might be interesting to see if Full Send or Alpine Stars, some of these other teams that are kind of near the pointy end of this field, might be able to make something happen. We're 4th and 5th in Porsche, still close. 4th, 5th, and 6th in Porsche still close. That's Northside NAB and Project GTINS.de. They're still all pretty much under a blanket here, Nolan, as they go into one.
So, of course, a battle that has been shaping up before previously in the series, and what's coming down now, as you saw, NAB Racing, he tried to make a little bit of a look around the outside, tries to get back to the inside, gets the door slammed shut on his face, but is going to kick it back open again. So Frank Van Brandwyk wanting to go now on Northside Racing. Alan Groth, he might lose out here unless he can dive it back up the inside in a Honda. Later on the brakes goes Groth, and he'll run it wide. Contact! Run along each other. Don't turn each other, boys. And that has allowed Lucas Lepere to open the door wide open and say, well, thank you very much. But still fighting side by side through Siberia. Might not be able to hang on to it. Almost making contact again. And somehow, Groth holds on.
Yeah, I mean, you saw him there on the exit of Siberia. We'll rewind these cameras back, and we'll go into the chopper cam for this one. You're going to see down into Honda, these guys get stacked up and they get hung up on one another just a little bit too hot there on the inside. Then off of Honda, that car down low on the right just can't quite get the exit they needed. They nearly get clear, but look at that Audi on driver's right-hand side. That's going to allow Alan Groth to just pinch that black and white car to driver's right. That's great awareness by both of those guys, both on that car on the left-hand side, for Alan Groth to recognize the fact that the Audi was there to use as a pick, Nolan, and for that black and white Porsche to recognize. But now Alan Groth, how did he got pinched behind an MX-5 on the straightaway? How in the world did this happen?
He tried to go to the left side of the track, but that was where the Miata was trying to go to let them through. Disaster for Alan Groth and NAB Racing, who's lost out on 2 spots and 1 straightaway. You're going to watch here on board as it comes around through the final corner. Watches, goes to the left, get around the Miata, and the Miata reads his mind and tried to follow him to get out of the way, and that caused him to get out of the brakes. And there's a huge ass Miata right ahead of him, and then he only watches both cars go flying around his right side.
That right there is why so frequently drivers in faster class cars will tell you to just hold your line. Another trip, the 222 MX-5 in the middle as Porsche cycle through on left and right hand sides, as that traffic has meant that the 2 cars in front of Alan have not been able to get away. So this gap will stay stacked up, and Alan might get caught behind this Audi here. But that's exactly why, Nolan, drivers in faster classes will tell the drivers in the slower classes, do not hold your line. Or excuse me, do not move, do not alternate your line. I will get around you. If you're on a straightaway, don't go from the right-hand side to the left-hand side trying to let me by, because if I see you on the right-hand side and move to the left as you do that, I'm not going to be a very happy camper. So Alan, likely not happy about that. It's also, of course, important to remember as well, Nolan, is that MX-5 was following the huge ass MX-5 in front of them, just watching the slipstream, just wanting the slipstream. So I don't know if that was as much the car immediately in front of Alan, just wanted to let Alan through, or if that was just, hey, we're just trying to get the slipstream. But regardless, a little bit of a misstep means Alan loses a ton of speed and momentum here.
Battle for third is completely off the track. Both cars making the exact same mistake, running wide, and they're going to lose out on a bunch of spots as well. And what happened first was Jean-Philippe Gendron went off, and Hoppus Boss followed him, and they're still side by side.
We're going to see what happened here. You see the huge-ass Audi working through turn 1, maybe playing a part of this in some way into the southern loop. It can be really easy to make this mistake. I think, yep, just too hot into the first part, and they just force themselves wide. That's such an easy mistake to make, Nolan, and they both do a little bit of rally crossing. We just got the Hell Circuit here in week 13, so hopefully they were able to get some practice there, but I mean, they really didn't skip a beat in terms of racing one another. They lost a handful of spots with that fight for fourth through 6th. Yes, I was right the first time, Randy. Cycling through. They lost some spots, but they haven't relented on each other whatsoever. They came off the racetrack and went back onto the racetrack and never releasing the pressure. And now this has turned into from a 3-car scrap to a 5-car scrap, as you could argue the 2 quicker cars are at the tail end of it.
Oh, absolutely. So it was Jean-Philippe Gendron and Hoppus Boss. That's a pretty easy mistake to make. You know, you're so focused on the car in front of you when you're battling that if they make a mistake, you're probably going to make the exact same mistake. And that is exactly what Hoppus Boss did. If he didn't push that bit wider, he would have been fine and he would have been able to get away with 3rd place there, but not anymore. Well, that is also allowed Lucas Lepere now up into 3rd place. So now that battle for 5th has turned into a battle for the podium.
Yeah, and we're going to have to ride on board with these guys because this is going to be such a close fight to watch. You see the sun as well in the distance starting to come up. You see that sunlight on the bottom of the cloud coverage is through this left-hander. Now, this is going to be one of those times, Nolan, where if you're Hell Racers, you want to be calm with Gold Racing Team Red. You do not want, under any circumstance, to get too aggressive here. Yes, you want to pick up the spot, but things are going to get really, really dicey trying to work through traffic. If you think there's an opportunity, if that car is going to make a pass, if the car in front of you is going to pass the car in front of them, don't try to just force it 3 wide, especially still this early in the race. Let them go through and almost let them be the hot knife through butter and try to follow them through rather than trying to make a move here. So I think it'd be wise for these guys to calm down on one another. You see an Audi pushing a little bit wide. He's just trying to let these guys through, put a couple wheels off. That's relatively okay for the most part, but these guys should calm down on one another, but this fight's still going to get stacked up as I see lap traffic checking up P2 and P3.
So now Frank Van Brandwyk seeing if he can get that run off of the corner on Lucas Lepere. The Audi going to move over to the left side of the racetrack to let 5th, 6th, and 7th on by. So this is really beginning to shape up.
They're side by side.
Brandwyk stuffs it into turn number 1 and gets that move clean. Aggressive move from Brandwyk, but it worked out for him.
Yeah, it did. That was good aggression there by Frank Van Brandwyk. We'll keep an eye on this as they run down in towards Honda. We'll show the replay if they come out of Honda clean. So let's see what happens down through through Stoner and in towards turn 4. I don't see a move potentially on. We'll just check back here as these guys are somewhat all over each other. And okay, that's my green and white to hit the instant replay button in ATVO. And you're going to see the move just happen here down the front straightaway and in towards turn 1, Nolan.
He got that nose in there, and let me tell you what, Brandwyk, he was saying, I'm here and I'm not backing out, so this is on you if we record on it. Look at that. Started to turn in for that car on the outside and just barely managed to keep out of that one as well. But beautiful driving there for Lucas Lepere, because if he ended up turning himself, that would have been disastrous to Lepere's race. He probably would have lost, at least 3 spots, maybe more than that, as all this fighting is allowing all this traffic to close in on each other. But it's also allowing, it's worth noting, your overall race leader, Jeffrey Garzado, to pull ahead as well.
Yeah, he's opened up a margin. It's now 4 seconds, and we'll take a look at your lap gaps to see the sort of speed he's making up. And you can see that second place running car has just been off the pace in comparison. You see a full second loss there. That's the Gold Racing Team white car that currently sits in second. But yeah, these guys losing tons and tons of speed even, and we'll even compare this will be the fight from P3 to P2. These guys have actually, surprisingly, Nolan, they've managed to be quicker than that second place running car of Jeffrey Garzado. So Jeffrey might need to be, might need to pick up the pace here, because these guys on a handful of laps have been considerably quicker. You see a few tenths there, There was a 3/10 loss on one of the laps, but that's 2 out of 3, which I'll always take. Is you see one car up the inside, that's north side.
Alan Groth, an aggressive dive bomb, but it's worked out for him. You know you got to pick up the pace when you got all of this traffic that's constantly going side-by-side battling, and they're still closing the gap by a solid 3/10 a lap. That's when you know, okay, I should probably pick up the pace here a little bit. So everything is beginning to really pick up here in this battle. Frank Van Brandwick has managed to actually pull a decent gap over Alan Groth as well, so it's really a 4-car fight now at this point, unless they can reel them in. The headlines have switched off, so at this point, natural daylight has taken over, and Hamas Baz all over the back of Lucas Lepere, and it still amazes me how they don't run each other over every single corner.
Yeah, they're trying to, aren't they? In a couple points a lap, they're definitely. It seems like they're trying to really put the pressure on one another. As these guys will cycle through to begin another lap, this entire train of cars, and something's going to give here eventually here, Nolan. I have to feel like the 16 and the 22 feel like they're the bottle, and the two in front of them are the cork, and they're going to want to let it loose. The 86 right now is going to be the first one to potentially get popped. You see looking all over the place. Don't go to the outside. That's where you found yourselves last time when you got yourself in this position, but trying to find the inside line down on the southern loop as Hell Racers, but there's no space down there. I would be shocked if something isn't sent down into Honda Hairpin.
Well, here we go. They have a touring car on the inside there, and now the outside. They're going to have to be careful for that one. Surprisingly, well, there you go. You can feel free to be surprised, man, because nobody sent it up the inside into the Honda Hairpin.
Shame. But yeah, that definitely looked like it was going to be really close. It's still this Project GT Heinz car getting stacked up behind that Audi now, and just when it was looking like it might be a 3-car scrap, it turns back into a 4-car scrap. So everyone really struggling with the traffic right now in this fight. P4, P3, P4, P5, P6.
Yeah, you almost have to look away from this because they're just getting so close to each other. It's a miracle they haven't wrecked yet at this point. Like, there is some kind of force that wants us to witness this battle and let it keep going, because at this point, like, it's a shock that they have not completely taken each other out. But I'm telling you, it's not far off. They are racing so aggressively, it's going to end in tears for one of them.
And I think, actually, Nolan, I'd love to see if these teams, if they feel they cannot make it the distance. I know we have a couple of team people watching the race, so if anyone has any pro insight, on your classes, look at this stack up and they head down through turn 1 and into turn 2. And MX5, they were nearly 3 wide going into the run into turn 2. The 86 is off. What in the world? Project Heinz is going to have to get it back here. And was this just over aggression, or was this just unfortunate traffic timing? We'll rewind back a minute here.
That was unfortunate traffic timing because the World of Sim Racing team got the back end stepped out through turn number 2. They were out of control and losing the car, so that was nothing wrong with a Porsche that was getting a lap. That was just complete misfortune as well. And more misfortune is that Sylvain Moraine has just been black flagged for avoidable contact back on lap number 24. Going to see if we can get eyes on who that car was, but a lot of drivers, all of a sudden, some serious incidents are now beginning to crop on up, and like we said, that battle's going to end in tears for somebody.
And it was actually that MX5, it looks like, Nolan, the 252. I don't think he held the inside the way he needed to. We'll rewind these cameras again, and we'll focus on that 252 car, but watch this World of Sim Racing Audi of Yaro Bernal, currently the one behind the wheel. You see there, in towards turn 1, or excuse me, in towards turn 2, and he's just out wide. Me being the pro director, moved the camera a little bit late, but watch this as he heads down in towards 2, Nolan. I think he tries maybe to open up the inside for one of these Porsches, not realizing that they were already on driver's right. You see one goes through, and you see he gets loose and he just comes up off the curb and into the outside of one of those Porsches, into the just ended up being the Project Heinz car. I don't think there's anything any of the Porsches could have done there. I think that MX5 is who made the mistake.
Yeah, that's it's one of those incidents where, the lap traffic can again play big time into how these different fights can play out. And, again, we've seen it come to fruition there. And, well, now that 5-car fight, it's shrunk down, and it's now only 2 cars between the Hell Racers machine and our good old friends in the Northside Racing car. So everything that shaped up the way it was, we were talking about how something's got to give there. And unfortunately, it was a lapped car that ended up being the deciding factor in all of that.
Yeah, which ends up happening. I mean, luckily it wasn't a major contact. I don't think anyone will have race-ending damage because of this. You'll just see a couple cars lose a handful of seconds. Right now, Hellraiser's trying to get back by Northside Racing here. But what I was going to say, Nolan, before I was rudely interrupted by racing action, is I would have loved to see some of these teams, if they're expecting to short pit, and this makes no sense to me. I don't know if they didn't have or weren't at the pit window yet, but if I'm Northside Racing, Nolan, and if I feel like short pitting here, we're less than an hour into this race, I know the Porsches can typically go a pretty good length on fuel. Why would you have not just come down pit road 6 or 7 laps ago and gotten yourself out of that interclass traffic if you're going to pit now? You've lost, I guarantee you, they've lost so much time being stacked up with their competitors. They should have just pit 10 minutes ago.
Well, it's one of those incidents where, you really have to try to time your cars carefully. You can see a good portion of the TCR is currently on the lane right now, too, with some of the Porsches coming down. So pit window, first time of the day, is very much open right now. Northside Racing, well, they came down now, so they're currently sitting in their box. And I think I can explain kind of, why Hellraisers was being so aggressive in that entire mess. You got to remember, they're fighting for a championship. Like, they are second place in championship, just 13 points behind Murakami Racing. The Northside Racing guys, they're down at 15th, a solid 268 points down. So, those were two different drivers, and I think Boz was getting a little bit impatient, maybe thinking, you're not fighting for a championship. I am. I need to get through it so I can continue to push on. And now he's going to be able to do so, as we see the 61 Hella Media machine also come down to the lane. Hella Media, they're also trying to fight for a title as well. 29 points, again, behind Murakami Racing, and just 16 behind Hellraisers. So it's still very tight through a lot of your sport class here.
Yeah, it definitely is, and we'll keep the cameras focused here. Matthias Havdahl and the team Hella Media number 61. I'm expecting 100% to be no tires for pretty much the entirety of the Porsche category. They tend to be really easy on the tires here, and we didn't see I don't think we saw the car get jacked up for the first group that came through. We'll do an onboard for this pit stop. We see if you notice a car drop down. You see Hellraisers. They're going to pull up into their spot. But Matthias Havdahl here, third on the grid. Definitely not getting jacked up, and they roll away. Definitely no tires there for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So fuel only stop then for Team Hella Media, who were off and away. And when things cycle through, that's going to be the question of, where are they going to end up? You still have Jeffrey Garzado on course, who is trying to work his way through traffic as it is. And you can see Full Ascent Racing's current race leader in the pits as well, Thomas Benninger. They've had a decent day so far. They were up and into the lead, and that's probably going to change now that they're down in the pits. So it's, again, one of those cases where we're really going to have to wait to see where things are going to be out. 42-second stop for Full Ascent Racing.
Yeah, I think that was likely a front tire only stop, Nolan. Of course, one of the interesting things about these front-wheel drive touring cars is that you have a little bit more options in play in how you can do the tires. It'd be very, very odd on a lot of these other cars to take either, just fronts or rears, especially on the rear-wheel drive cars that we have on the sim, be them GT cars or otherwise. But here, because these front-wheel drive cars, because they use the front tires so much in comparison to the rear tires really don't experience a lot of wear. So it's actually pretty common to see people take fronts only, especially if they're going to be short filling the car. Tires and fuel do happen at the same time. So if you plan on, taking a lighter fuel load, you can just take front tires and have a slightly shorter stop. And if you can get enough fuel in the car, that's definitely a way to save a little bit of time. But with that being said, if you're taking a full tank, I think you likely have the time to take all four, and a lot of teams will just do that. But I have a feeling we may have seen at least a couple probably do slightly short fills with fronts only.
Jeffrey Garzado currently sitting in the pit lane. Your overall race leader has lost the lead now. He is down to second place now, and likely might continue to drop down a little bit more. So Gold Racing Team White losing a little bit of time there from that lead. Currently, Matthias Havdahl is actually in the lead in that number 61 Hella Media machine right now, and it's a longer stop for Garzado. It's a 54 5-second time, so he's definitely taking tires with that stop. That might have some sort of penalty. Over a minute now. So at this point, we're reaching a bit longer than what tires would be. A minute and 5-second stops. So I feel like something happened there in the pits. Might have gotten a speeding entry on the pits because he was stopped there for quite a bit longer than he should have, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think he had a penalty of some sort. I'm going to rewind these cameras back as far as I can, and let's see what happens to Mr. Garzado here. This should be his in-lap right here. So into the final couple of corners, and we'll bring up, if I can, let's see if this works. No, it does not. Yeah, that's... He may have sped. I think he probably sped right there. I'm going to rewind the cameras back again. If you watch Nolan, ignore the speed on our graphic. That is how he is live on the racetrack right now. And, of course, he's not live on the racetrack right now. This is a replay. I need to find the car on the list again. If you watch when he passes the cones, he does not have the pit limiter on. Watch the dash. Gets on the gas, and then the pit limiter comes on. I think he sped right there.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And you saw a little bit of a twitch with the wheel as well.
Oh, now he's off
the brakes. Oh, dearie me. So, more problems than for Garzado, who has gone off the track. First a penalty, and then off the track. So it's all gone wrong for Garzado here in that number 2 machine. Not the start he wanted to have for his day. So I think it's safe to say it's fairly obvious what happened there. And now what happened to send him off the track? Was it more trouble with lapped cars?
What is he doing?
It was. Why would you try to pass around the outside? That is not the play.
Hold on. Let's get another look on this. Did that MX-5 maybe check up in front of him in a way he wasn't expecting, and he was just trying to avoid? I want to judge the onboard here, because there is a couple ways that this may have worked out. But he likely got he got the penalty. He's likely frustrated. Might be seeing a little bit of red, and he just drove. I don't know if he got target fixated. But we're gonna watch that again. I don't know if he got target fixation, Nolan, or if it's just a lack of focus, or maybe he's seeing red a little bit because he's frustrated he got himself a penalty. But you have 80% of the racetrack on the right-hand side of that MX-5, and you have 1% on the left. I don't know if he was expecting that MX-5 to turn in, and it didn't, but I don't know. But it also doesn't seem like he ever planned to turn into the corner.
That might have been a lack of focus. Whatever happened, that was very, very clumsy as well from that Gold Racing Team Porsche. We do have 1-5 heating up in your TCRs again. Paul Van Loon, P24 overall, currently in a fight with Ruben Schill for the CXR Project Black Machine. They are currently running nose to tail right now with Matthias Havdahl, your race leader, trying to get around them. All drivers are under the brakes. They try to duck around the Miata. Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah, they're 9th and 10th right now in categories. You see that 61 just trying to find a way through, and he'll find it in towards Siberia, which is going to break this fight up a little bit, Nolan. So unfortunate there, but we'll see how quickly it stacks up. And your race leader actually is going to get by pretty much on a straightaway, so that full send Audi is not going to feel any time loss due to the faster traffic cycling through. That said, there's an MX-5 in front of them, which is, I believe, Movano Sim Racing Team number 289. And indeed it is. So pat on the back to Randy for guessing that correctly. So we'll see. We'll see if maybe this can check up that full send car. But unless they get him in the final corner, I don't think they're going to lose much time. They'll likely get him down the front straight.
And it looks like that might be what's going to happen. Not quite. They are going to catch him just on the exit, enough that it might have checked up Paul Van Loon the smallest of amounts. And you do have the German Sim Racing Sign Machine just waiting in the wings behind them as well, but you can see a little bit of a toe for CXR Project Black down the front straightaway. Going to make the look down at turn number 1. Will he be alongside? He's going to try to get the nose in there, but Paul Van Loon manages to get down to cover as CXR Project Black decides to bow out of that one. I'd like to go for that one very early on. Loan clipping the curbs just a little bit more, unsettling the back end of that TCR. Very, very easy to do.
I like that move from Paul there. There was some overlap, but he had the confidence on the brakes to be able to clear that machine of Ruben trying to make that move up the inside. Now they're side by side down, though, into Honda.
So Ruben Schill going to be up and into the position and gets it stopped before he overruns the corner. So Paul Van Loon not able to go for that overrun and was not able to set anything up going into Siberia. Van Loon trying to take a little bit of a tighter line than Ruben Schill. They are still nose to tail on the exit. Full send racing all over the back of that 198 car, and so they continue to throttle their way through what is one of the more twistier sections of the track, through a hay shed and then down through Lukey Heights. Again, driving right over a crest of a hill before they dive down towards the MG hairpin.
Yeah, so everyone really thinking. Now, I do have an interesting question here for you, Nolan, is do you think that 29 laps, was that just these guys getting to their pit window maybe to make it to the end of the race? Do you think an hour and a half is possible? I don't think so, right? Not in the Audis.
Oh.
I don't think certainly in the Porsches. It should just be the MX-5s right now that are pretty much in the window to go all the way.
Oh, absolutely not. No, at least I know for a fact that the touring cars and the Porsches are not. What we've seen in the other 2.4 hours this season so far, there's no way they're going to be able to make it through. They're going to have at least one more stop, but the question will be, are they going to be filling up on the full tank and taking the shortest stop, or are they going to be taking the full service and maybe filling it up just part way on fuel, when we get under an hour to go?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the thing, like you said, it's going to be interesting to watch as these guys now still close, might be moved down into Honda. This has been where you make the moves. Do that MX-5 on driver's left. Might have to be a little bit of a lift as they deal with that, and that's actually going to spread them out, and they're not going to be able to. Oh, it's actually the 198, all sorts of sideways going down into Honda, able to save it, but that stacks up the 187 as they're trying as well to reel in that car in front of them. That's the Team Vikings Mueller car that's not very far up the road, but they are trying to get there.
So Ruben Schill trying to go for his drift license. If I can put in some advice for trying to go for a drift license, don't do it in a touring car. Front-wheel drive cars don't tend to work terribly well for drifting, but now Schill making the best of what he's got. So beautiful job to hang on to that one. Again, it's one of those cases with the front-wheel drive cars where you just pin it to the floor and the car will basically do the work itself. And like you said, despite them battling back and forth, they are closing into Christian Udeberg in that 103 machine up the road. So gonna have ourselves a 3-car fight here in a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. So it's going to be a ton of fun to watch here, especially through the second stint of the race. I mean, we're already an hour into this, Nolan. That first hour was really, really exciting, and I've seen races here be exciting at Phillip Island as well. We're going to check in as well with another Porsche fight. This Northside racing car just has a way of finding itself an interesting situation, as Alan Goss. He's just ahead of Pascal Thies and Manuel Meyer. That's both the pair of Fisher Motorsports cars trying to work on him. You see the inverted paint schemes there on those machines. But 3-car scrap here in the Porsches as we work in towards coming up towards the second half of the race.
So Alan Groth, he's going to have 2 Fisher Motorsport teammates behind him, Pascal Thies and Manuel Meyer, trying to work his way through. So it looks like with everything that's going to be taking a look with everything right now, why don't we go on board with, bit of a checkup throughout this field, and now Fisher Motorsport team is going to be side by side, so why not? Let's go for Pascal Thies with Fisher Motorsport for some RacespotTV fan immersion. That was Pascal Theis' Fisher Motorsports on board for RacespotTV Fan Immersion. Still racing. 1 hour and 18 minutes remaining here in the 2.4 hours of Phillip Island for the penultimate round in the Club Sport Series presented by DGFX. A little bit of a mistake from Fisher Motorsport teammate behind, so a bit of unfortunateness for him. Let's go through a rundown of your top 8. We still have Team Helen Media, Matthias Habdahl in first place, with Nav Racing in second at the moment. And it's going to be Nav Racing down in second. Gold Racing Team Red and Project GT Eins running third and fourth. Hell Racers in a fierce fight right now with the Project GT Eins machine in that battle for fifth place. Northside Racing in sixth. Fisher Motorsport in seventh, with Gold Racing Team White in eighth. Looking for your touring cars, Team Hoytjenfeld still leads. Pretty significant gap, good 11 or 10.5 seconds over Alpine Stars, Geodesic Racing. Full Send Racing and SimRC ClubSport running in third and fourth, with Graphite Racing and Fock Autotech Sim Racing in fifth and sixth. VEC Sim Racing seventh, with CXR Project Black in eighth. And it's going to be a full field rundown for your club class. Vivano Sim Racing team currently in the lead, still by almost a minute. Just Mazda in second place, World of Sim Racing team in third, Chipsky Racing in fourth, with Tri Racing fifth, Calios Racing sixth, CXR Project Black in seventh, with German Sim Racing Orange not making the start of the race. So Randy, we are well past the halfway point now in this race, and well, while we were looking at that fan immersion, well, let me tell you what, that battle for fourth place, it heated up quite a bit, and it has swapped positions again in this lap. This is in your sport class between Hell Racers and Lucas Lepere. It's swapped positions again this lap, and again, Hell Racers locking up and a bit of a slide as well. So a couple of those drivers, Hamas Boz, he's got a bit of an issue right now where he can make the pass and then immediately locks up and loses it right away.
Yeah, you're right. Things are very, very close here as they currently run. I have no idea how these guys are managing this as they come up towards the final run towards this race here, Nolan, to not hit each other, because these guys have been locked together. We've seen a couple slight car contacts, like we said, through this little pack of cars that has at times been as strong as 4 or 5 or 6 cars all fighting for position. Now it's basically groups of 2 that have kind of separated throughout the racetrack and throughout the field. But man, these guys are all over each other.
Absolutely, and at the moment, it's looking like Hamas Boz is still going to be in the lead. They've got a big angle, though, of Audi and MX-5 Traffics right ahead of them, so things are about to get dicey here. Boz looking left and then ducks back to the right, then back to the left to make the corner. And then, unfortunately, Luke Lepere not going to be so lucky, gets held up by the VC Sim Racing machine as he's going to try to duck his way through, but no doubt Hamas Boz is going to get held up here in a few moments with some more touring car traffic. Those are 2 cars that are currently battling for position. It's going to be 5th place in the TCR class that your battle for 4th is approaching now.
Yeah, and Lucas got hung up all the way through the southern loop, and look there, oh, Hell Racers nearly pinched down to the inside by Graphite, nearly got that run blocked off. That could have been disaster for a huge clump of cars. Luckily, that path reopened itself back up, and now look at Project GT Eins here. They're now trapped behind 2 cars. We'll make that 1 car as One facilitates the pass relatively kindly as they exit Siberia and begin the run towards Lukey Heights. Now, is Hellracers going to get through in a good spot? Yes, they are. Hellracers, this entire frame of traffic here, Nolan, they've now put 3 Audis behind them, and they've yet to catch a single one of these cars in a bad place. And now this MX-5, they're going to be able to get around that Movano Mazda as well extremely cleanly and in an ideal situation, as I have a feeling that Lucas Lapierre is going to get caught up behind this Mazda, yet through this left-hander, and this is disaster. This sets up not only the run onto this little short shoot, but the run really onto the front straightaway as well. Starts through that penultimate corner, some might argue. So the 86, they just lost tons of time. They were nose to tail. It's now about 20 car lengths separating the two.
They lost at least a second of time that lap, so that just goes to show you how crucial it can be with traffic management in a race like this. Gap now at about 1.5 seconds, and well, Hampus Boss, he's in a great place right now because now he's able to just completely run away with this one. And you wonder, though, if he can close in the gap to Jean-Philippe Gendron. Of course, that's your third-place car right now. They got about 9.5 seconds between fourth and third right now in that sport class. And you know, Gendron, he hasn't had the best run of himself either, so it's going to be a question of will he be able to do that. He has been closing in a bit much, but on the last lap, it was a minimal gain on that lap.
Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of lap traffic there for Hampus Boss, so we're going to have to kind of monitor this gap as the run goes on. You know, the other thing to keep in mind as well, Nolan, is the fact that we have driver swaps coming at Hampus Boss. He has to be getting out of the car here in the next 30 minutes, well, 28 minutes there. Like you said, 45-minute minimums. He's been in this car since the start of the race. I think there's a handful of teams that are definitely in that same ballpark. Jean-Philippe Gendron here. He's currently in that Gold Racing Team red car that we were just talking about that's in P3. They'll be having to do a driver swap. Matthias Habdahl, your leading car, is going to have to do a driver swap. Their second place running car is going to have to do a driver swap. So driver swap pretty much coming for all your Porsche leaders at the next round of stops.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's one of those things where you have to do it. And I think that's what part of what makes this series just so entertaining is, you know, you got these driver swaps, and sometimes they can come up at very inconvenient times. And I think at this point, you know, it's not an uncommon strategy to see one driver take over half the race in the strategy, and then have somebody else, you know, take over for the last half of the race, or the last third of a race, realistically. So, you know, it's something that we have seen plenty of times before in this series, and it's something we're going to be seeing plenty of times now, as now they're trying to find their way through another bit of lap traffic. And let me tell you what, Hampus Boss, he's doing a beautiful job cutting his way through the traffic here.
Yeah, he really is. He's just managing it beautifully. As you see that Audi behind, not doing nearly as good of a job. That was Thomas Benninger in the full send racing number 185. They went a little bit full send there up into Honda, and now you're going to see Lucas Lapierre. I think he just saw that and he launched by. He looked up the inside of Geodesic heading towards Siberia. Wasn't able to get the job done though, but he'll finally get through. But that was almost a killer for somebody down there at Honda. But luckily, everyone ends up relatively clean.
That has split that battle for second place in your TCRs up as well. So, you know, not a lot of cars close when it comes to actual, you know, leading in the race. You know, a lot of drivers have been pretty split up from their groups. Obviously, Movano, well, we already know that that's almost a lap now, so we don't even need to worry about that. But the Hohenfeld cars, they got about a 7.5 second gap, and Team Alameda down in that racing, it's 25 seconds. So no close leads, battles for any of your actual class leads, which is something that we haven't actually seen a whole lot. Remember Barcelona, there was a very good fight that was split up by a penalty that came down with less than 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and it's really everything can come down to the wire. Right now we're watching Graphite and FAC Autotech as they're going to go side by side into turn one, and let's see what can happen here. Graphite going to be seeing that car on the right-hand side, hard dive into turn one, and Graphite's going to be thinking, what the FAC, as that car moves up into position just ahead of them. VEC Sim Racing as well is just behind this as you see them dealing with that Porsche on the left-hand side. You have three middle-class cars dealing with a quicker class car while trying to fight for position. We've seen drama from this already, as now that Porsche will get clear and leave these Audis by themselves, at least for the time being, until another Porsche comes from the rear view, or maybe a MX-5 out of the windshield. But these guys all close and all on top of one another now as they work through Honda.
And as that was all going on, We got cars around. Manuel Meyer for Fisher Motorsports has just gone around in the Honda hairpin. Too deep on the brakes, back end steps around and he finishes himself off. And I was about to mention that Jeffrey Garzado had his own moment in turn one where turn two, where he actually spun off and passed. I was about to mention that might be about those shaping down. Well, not anymore because he just got that spot back from Manuel Meyer, spinning himself out.
Let's see, here's a replay of this incident. Oh man, he was just nowhere near the braking zone going into Honda. He just basically mistake all by himself. You saw he was around a bunch of traffic there, Nolan. He wasn't, in a tight nose-to-tail fight the way a lot of these guys have been, but there was a lot of traffic around him that may have been adding on top of that as these guys will come across and start another lap here. And actually, they're going to have the last place running, 14th currently on the running order. Team Hyla Media car working their way through this gaggle of cars. Man, look at the way cars fanning out back and forth in graphite. They want the spot back.
They want the spot back, and Fock Autotype Sim Racing cannot get to the inside to cover because they had the huge-ass Porsche running up them on the bottom, and now Sven Demmel trying to go around the outside of Graphite Racing. He's going to be able to get that move all done, so Sven Brotz trying to run him down, and you can't discount the VC Sim Racing machine for Chris Dubrook, who is still behind this group. They're trying to get up there as well. Oh boy, but this is going to get tight. It's going to be a traffic jam through Honda as traffic are trying to get around each other, and nobody's on an optimal line.
Yeah, no one's on an optimal line except for Graphite. Graphite's clear ahead of this. And look at this Porsche. This Porsche behind is going to be absolutely hating this because, yeah, they may not be fighting with position, but they got two Audis and MX-5s all in front of them, really checking them up. And now they begin to run towards Leaky Heights. They're going to be like, come on, guys, let me through. I want to move up. I want to do the best I can. Let's check back in. This fight P4, P5, and if actually that's the Graphite car. Or no, I take that back. I think that's a different Graphite car that we were following. Starting to maybe spread out a little bit here, Nolan. It looked like it was maybe starting to close down, but it's out to half a second again here between P4 and P5 on the track.
Still plenty close enough, though, that a single mistake will definitely mean disaster for one of them in this battle. In the case of the Project GT Ions machine, it'll mean that they're going to have to settle for another spot. And in turn, in the case of the huge ass machine, it is going to be losing out on that fourth place. So it's one of those things where you really got to be careful and see what you can make out of this.
Yeah, you're right. You do have to be careful, and you got to really just think about everything that's going on and what you have going. So these guys doing everything they can for sure, trying to manage as best as they can. Sorry as well, by the way, about some of the technical gremlins that you may have seen, some of those visual issues. That's nothing we can really control on our side. Reloads don't fix that. You may have noticed some of that during the BMW event last week as well, but not anything we can really do about that. But Hell Racers doing everything they can to try to open this gap up. And actually, I think Hell Racers may have been given another gift here, Nolan. They're able to slip by that MX-5, and Project Iron's actually able to just do so as well. I thought they were going to get held up there working through that left-hander again, but they actually got through that MX-5, I think, as well as they possibly could have.
Well, and now we do have one other battle that's heating up as well. It's a fight for 8th place overall. Sven Demmel for the huge ass Porsche trying to have a go at Jeffrey Garzado in the Gold Racing Team White Machine. Those are two cars that have been getting just a little bit closer, the number 2 and 37. They're still trying to find their way around each other. They're trying to work it right now. Both cars are damaged in pretty significant ways, and one of them a little bit more than the other, but Demmel's been doing a good job trying to stick to the back and trying to continue to reel him in.
Yeah, you're right. Kind of doing everything he can to sort of manage that gap as well as Mr. Sven Demmel in the huge ass Porsche. Huge ass having car in every single category here is Jeffrey Garzado, trying to really bounce back from that penalty they received earlier on, Nolan. Unfortunately they get that, but buried in the traffic right now. They're going to be really thinking about what if in terms of this race. I think they were on likely for a podium, and that one mistake has dropped them really towards the tail end of the top 10.
And now those Porsches trying to work their way past your battle for second place in the GCR field between Thomas Benninger and Raf Vanderlinden for Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing, and right behind them, Lucas Dolzer for the SimRC ClubSport machine. That's a 3-car TCR fight, and that's for second in that class. So 3 cars very, very close. Heads up, though. Team Helen Media and SlowRacing.com esports team. 2 drivers wanting to get around them from behind.
Yeah, we are going to keep focused, though, on this fight for second in the category between Full Send Racing and Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing. So, yeah, 0.2 of a second separates the two cars, as well as Sim RC, involved in this as well. So 3 cars scrapping for this second spot, currently separated by a Porsche, and between the second car in line and the third car in line, a couple more Porsches lined up behind. So these guys are going to have a hard time really trying to race with each other, Nolan, as we approach this 1 hour to go mark. With all this faster traffic trying to cycle through, they're probably going to have to give it a lap or two to just sort of lay easy on one another, let these rear-engine Porsches come by, and then pick up the fight.
Well, this has been an absolutely fantastic race, and it is absolutely flying by, like you've pointed out. Coming up to just an hour to go, we've already been at it for just about an hour and a half already, so this race is flying by. I feel like that's a very common occurrence in these races. The action it never really stops, does it? There's always something going on one of these races, and it's one of the reasons why it's one of my personal favorite series to commentate.
Yeah, I mean, that's so much fun. I love the fact that this series exists. A lot of championships have really become sort of the kind of upper echelon of sports cars, be it a lot of prototypes. Maybe GT traffic as well, as Thomas Benninger nearly going around in the 185, and he's going to be side by side with Geodesic, and this is going to stack up this fight for second again.
So with all these drivers trying to work their way through more Miata traffic that they're trying to fight their way around, Lucas Dolzer, Sim RC Club Sport, are you okay, Ricky?
Don't worry, my mic was muted in OBS, but no, my voice is definitely starting to go. I think I might have a little bit of a cold, or I mean, I live a 10-minute drive from Miramar, so I won't say what's going around, but we all know what's going around. Huge flickering once again, but yeah, definitely woke up with a little bit of a cold this morning. My voice is starting to go, and Nolan did not enjoy what he heard. You guys, however, you guys were all spared on the YouTube stream.
Yeah, I was wondering at first what was going on there, but glad you got that sorted out.
Hey, you ever just like have a dry throat and then cough, and it's just like the most hideous sounding thing ever? That's exactly what it was.
Oh dear. Raf van der Linden still trying to find a way past Thomas Benninger and that Full Send Racing machine, as you still got Lucas Dolzer, who is still trying to find his way to the back, and the Sim RC ClubSport machine trying to look up the inside now as van der Linden tried to pinch it down. I was just about to say, in season 2, when we had the Radicals instead of the touring cars, the Sim RC ClubSport machine, they actually were in the Radicals, and they were dominating in that season. It's been a little more of a tricky run for them here in the touring cars. It's a much more competitive field, and they're finding that out in full today. Dolzer not able to find a way around the outside of Honda on Raf van der Linden.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Trying to do everything he can here as they approach this hour mark. And it's good to see these touring cars have this sort of good fighting. It's just great to see, no other way to say it. I know it's become one of the more liked cars on the sim. It's one of the cars I enjoy to drive. I don't drive as much as I used to, but I really did kind of, adore driving it back when I did. But, man, this Sim RC car trying everything he can to get by, but just nothing opening up. Doing a great job right now with Raf van der Linden, just managing not only the gap behind and keeping the door shut behind him at all times, not opening up an opportunity for the machine behind to make a move, but the Sim RC ClubSport car, of Lucas Dolzer to make a move, but to keep pace with the car in front as well. That's something a lot of people struggle with, Nolan, and to have be seeing someone do that so expertly right now is so awesome to see.
Well, it's allowing us to keep this fight really close as well as they begin yet another lap. It's going to be 51 for this group of 3 here. And, Benninger, he can get such a good drive off of that final corner that I feel like, this field, they could really close in the second half of the racetrack. But through that final corner, Benninger is just so much better than they are on the throttle. And that's why he's been able to keep it out in front all this time. And at this point, Dolzer's just being completely held up by van der Linden in that Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing machine. And all of this, it is allowing Team Honchenfeld to continue to pull a little bit more of a gap. That gap is about 8.2 seconds as of now, so might be slowing, might actually be shrinking by the smallest bit, but I don't think it's going to be enough where we'll be getting a fight for the lead by the end of the race.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and it's going to be an interesting call here, Nolan, because this again is going to go back to what I was mentioning earlier about when, excuse me, you guys on the YouTube, you can have a mild cough, don't worry. If these guys feel like they're checking themselves up, Nolan, you may want to come down pit road earlier. It's one of the reasons why I generally am a fan of going long on the fuel strategy when you can, especially in that opening stint. But you do need to be, know when you need to come down early on the early stints as well. But, you're trapped in this three-way fight. If you feel that you're losing time, don't come down, in 5 laps. The moment you hit your fuel window, hit pit road and get out of this traffic, and then just go out there in clean air and be able to race. I'm sure that at this track, yes, I know there's probably a little bit of advantage with the draft, especially here on this stretch. The stretch down the front straightaway, of course, and out of turn 2. The draft might be nice, but I bet you that they're losing a lot more time in the traffic than they're ever gaining in the slipstream here around this place. The 142 going to eye up the inside, but nowhere near close enough. But in this situation, Nolan, I want to be the first car to come down on towards pit road and get myself out of this traffic, rather than being the last one, letting people get out there, come down pit road, and get out there potentially on clean track, and they're just sort of able to outpace me by default.
So that's going to be, again, one of those big strategy calls. Just under 1 hour remaining in this race, so not a lot of time at all for some of these drivers to make these moves. And I'm noticing that Benninger, he's actually almost been able to hold the smallest of gaps as well. And that gap is slowly increasing. Got some Porsche traffic behind them who is trying to find their way through. That's Matthias Havdahl, your overall race leader, who is putting these cars down yet another lap. And it looks like we've got another battle shaping up as well, as we're going to take a little bit of a look through the field. And
we were going to watch that fight, but then I noticed the fight second overall was close, so I decided to come to this one instead.
Well, I don't blame you for that one. So Jean-Philippe Gendron in third place. Well, Jean-Philippe Gendron for Gold Race Team Red had just completed the pass on Frank Van Brandwyk on this lap, actually. So fights are still shaping up across the racetrack.
Yeah, they definitely are, and these guys are really doing a great job here through this. And it's going to be so interesting to watch here what happens, Nolan, when the new drivers get into the cars here, because we're coming up on that window. Actually, of course, it's not just the fuel window we're potentially talking about. We're 12 minutes out from when all of these guys have to come down pit road and get their driver swaps done and dusted, because a lot of people did not change drivers at the last pit stop. So it's going to be fun to see what the pace is like here in about 12 minutes time, because I actually think that might be more of a limitation than the fuel, wouldn't it, of just needing to come down pit road and get the driver swap done?
Absolutely. See, it's one of those things, again, where you really need to try to balance everything out. And, at this point in time, what I would do is, once you do hit that fuel window, maybe push it another lap or so. And then maybe when we're about, 7 minutes from now or so, bring it down, get that second driver, and then just run it straight through to the end. No more stopping unless you absolutely have to.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's so imperative to what you have to do. I mean, and the other thing as well, Nolan, is of course this exists in real racing as well. But the gold, platinum, silver, bronze system exists in real life as well. And there's a huge advantage to being as fast as you can while being as low a rated driver as you can. And in a lot of ways, in these situations, what might end up just basically being the advantage is who has the fastest, lower-rated driver that's going to get in. Yeah, they may not be as quick as their ace driver that's currently in the car, but as long as they're faster than the guys that are going to be getting in the car soon, maybe you're okay just letting them get in the car 10 minutes early to, like I said, get you out of traffic and then get them into the race car. And actually, Nolan, is that maybe something you might want to do? Just thinking in terms of driver swap strategy, if you know you have someone coming in, know that they're going to be under pressure to, maybe pit early and get them out there not nose to tail with a bunch of their competitors to have a few laps to sort of get up to speed, and then when the competitors pit, then they get sort of thrown into the mix rather than just basically coming directly out of the pits and being in a 3-wide scrap for position.
Well, excuse me.
You're starting to sound like me.
Yes, thank you, but yeah, it's one of those things where that could very well be the case. And well, remember, I do want to turn our attention away. I do apologize, but yes, I do agree with that question. But that fight we had second place in the TCRs, it's heating up again, because we actually have one TCR that's gone off the track. It was Ben Warren from AT Brit just ahead of these guys. I think he went off to try to get out of their way, but Lucas Dolzer and Raf Vanderlyn, they were side by side for a solid 2 turns, the first 2 turns on the racetrack. Meanwhile, we have had word from race control that the 169 machine of Full Send Racing is supposed to give a position back to the 135 machine for causing a collision about, it looks like maybe about 6 or 7 laps ago, and they needed to get their position back because they caused the collision during the overtake.
Yeah, that was on lap 46. That was about 8 laps ago. That was at turn 10. And you know what? I'm gonna be brave here. We'll see if we can see what happened here to the 169 car. Seems that this replay is gonna play nice. So what is gonna be interesting here, though, Nolan, is that they have to give that position to the 135, and the 135 is 3 spots behind them. So that penalty is not just losing a spot; that's losing 3 spots.
That just goes to show you how crucial it can be that you execute your passes cleanly. Because if you need to, take a pass like that, it's really not going to work out for you. As we continue to run along with this replay to see if we can, get a beat on exactly what this was that had this handed down. So keeping along with this so far is that
it should be into the downhill hairpin, just dropping out of Lukey Heights. So about 3/4 of the way around the troll, pretty much all at the end of the track.
Now, it's not really surprising that it would be there because, dive bombs are just so common in those 2 turns. You've seen it, several times in basically every type of walk of life when it comes to different cars. Heck, we've even seen it with Formula 1 cars. If you remember, I think it was Gregor Huta, Mitchell Lejeune in the final season of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series as well that happened with, what was that, 4 laps to go, give or take?
I think you might be right, but let's see what happens down here into the hairpin. And you see, yeah, just way off the racetrack. We'll actually rewind that again, get another look. There was a sort of a Mazda in the mix that made everything a little bit more complicated and definitely hard for these guys to deal with. But you're going to see here, they're going to get the move done and just basically flat out outbrake themselves and tag the back of that of the car in front of them. So you see here up the hill, that MX-5 sight unseen. Can't really see it, and donk, and off the racetrack they go. So, bit of a lazy incident. I don't think they had a lot of damage there to the car they sent around. Looks like they just ended up in the grass and weren't sent out way out into the tires or anything like that. But that's going to be a penalty for sure, as we're 7 minutes away from the driver swap timer. And actually, we have yet to see. Have we seen MX-5s on pit road yet? Yes, we have. We didn't watch it, but they came down pit road.
Well, Movano is still in the lead for them, so it's not really a big surprise that Movano Sim Racing is in the lead. Again, that team, they've got pretty much a stacked roster when it comes to MX-5 guys. They got some of the better drivers when it comes to Mazda Miatas in the entire sim. So, it's no surprise that Movano is once again way out in front. So, it's one of those interesting things. And now Raf Vanderlyn and down the inside of Thomas Benninger. And Benninger might lose out on 2 spots here as they go to the Honda Hairpin. In fact, he is. So Full Send Racing losing out on a couple here. Raf Vanderlyn with the clean overtake down to the Honda Hairpin.
Yeah, not sure what happened to the 185 there, but you're right. Losing a couple spots, and SimRC is going to go up into 3rd. Going to move Geodesic up into P2. Now the question is if Full Send's having some sort of an issue here, Nolan, or if they just made a single mistake, because they're not only do they look like they lost those 2 spots, they look like they're falling off the back of this little fight as well. You have a Porsche coming through. That's not going to do them any favors.
No, absolutely not. So, Benninger only losing more and more time. And with every second that ticks by, we get close to that pit window. And in fact, there it is. Raf Vanderlyn and down to the lane. And Lucas Dolzer and Benninger are not going to follow. So, a few drivers coming down to the pit lane then. And this is going to be Alpine Star Geodesic Racing's final stop for the day.
And this is one of the teams that does not have to do a driver swap here. So let's see what they choose to do. Raf Vanderlyn got in the car at the first pit stop. Blake Neck started the car, but they're actually going to switch it back over, Nolan. And I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of this to do the double driver swap, but Blake Neck's going to get back behind the wheel. So maybe they're feeling that Blake has the slightly better speed and advantage here. So they are going to get him back into that race car, though.
So Blake Neck into the car. Car comes off the jacks. Looks like they're just going to be topping up on some fuel here yet to make it to the end of that race, and then they're going to be all set to go. But it's on that timer, it's continuing to tick away, but it is, of course, a full service stop. 38.5 seconds for the stop for for Blake Neck, not Raf Vanderlyn. He just got out of that car. So, yeah, Blake Neck into the car for the final stint of the day.
And actually, somewhat oddly here, I think most of the teams in this actually all the teams in this fight that we've been monitoring here, Nolan, none of them have to do driver swaps at this next stop. All of them pretty much, you know, we just saw Linden. They are obviously changed. Lucas Dolzer, he got into the car for the middle stint. Thomas Bettinger got into the car for the middle stint. Graphite Racing, we've seen him. John Ford's actually been in the car for the entire time. But all these cars in the second, third, fourth place fight we've been monitoring, and even a couple of the cars a little bit further back, they all did driver swaps at the at the first round of pit stops to begin that second stint, as the fight's going to be on for second here, as Full Send has a bit of a run. Or excuse me, Sim RC has a bit of a run.
Don't get confused. That was Graphite Racing, who is a lap down from Lucas Dolzer.
Oh, that's the wrong Graphite Racing.
The real third place is some ways back. Thomas Bettinger just coming through turn number 2 now. So little bit of some lap traffic difficulties. We did see Rudy Wiggins almost get run over from Dolzer when he was trying to get around him. Dolzer getting 2 wheels into the grass, and he's going to duck around the CXF Project Black Machine, who was also a couple laps down.
Yeah, so a little bit of traffic coming through here. As easy as, oh, car off at Honda. I think is that the Hellraiser's car? I thought. That is. What in the world happened here?
Oh, was it contact? It was. He got turned by one of the Graphite Racing touring cars in the run.
I knew something was going to happen with them.
So Hampus Boss for Hell Racers. Well, that race, it's not the way they wanted to go. That is going to majorly impact their championship fight. Watch, they're trying to get around him and came right back on, and Rudy Wiggins was trying to commit to a line, and I almost wonder if maybe Hampus Boss brought them on home, because he was kind of all over the place when he was trying to get around them.
Yeah, I'm going to watch this from Graphite's perspective. I really want to see this. Of course, that's not the roof cam that we're typically used to, so we'll go roll bar cam. You're going to see it on the left-hand side. You should see that Porsche start nosing out in front. Let's see, Rudy Wiggins just waiting, and really hard to see what exactly happened there. I thought that was going to be a little bit more clear. Let's try it this time from Hampus Boss. This is a car that gets turned, and it's one of two things has to happen. It's either the Graphite car clears themselves or the Hellraiser's car clears themselves and pits themselves. So Full Send, they're going to get around them now. The car that spins them is the next in line. How exactly does this happen? That's really tough to call from either of the onboards. I'm not sure. We might have to go to a chopper cam on this one.
Yeah, so might have to take a look at that. And it's notable as well that right now Boz is your race leader. He did take the lead because we do have cars in the pit lane. Anders Christensen jumping in for Team Hella Media. And they are going to be down to 8th place as they exit the pits. And in other words, Race Control to give a position back to number 16 needs to give that position back to the 86 for causing a collision back on lap number 57, which wasn't terribly long ago, just a few laps.
Yeah, having a look at it again, Nolan, it almost looks like that Porsche kind of got pinched, but they didn't have a ton of room to work with. I don't know. I think Graphite should have probably given them a little bit more space than they did, but I think Hell Racers, to a certain extent, probably cut across the nose of that Graphite Racing Audi TCR. But that said, Nolan, for a lot of these guys, you have to come down pit road right here, right now, and you see Hell Racers coming in. They're going to get their driver swap done, and Dustin Hampus Boss coming in. You do not have time to do another lap and get back with 45 minutes still on the board. So I would expect pit road to become a very busy place.
Lucas Lepere for Project GT is also down to the lane right now from 2nd place in the class. So this is going to get interesting here. We're going to have to see where they'll be able to cycle out. Hampus Boss is going to lose a bunch of time here to the race leaders as a result of that pretty nasty spin. So it's, again, a case of let's see where drivers will end up. Lucas Lepere into the lane, and currently still waiting for a new driver to pop in there. There he is, jumping out of the car, and who will come in to replace him? It's going to be Bert Zabel to replace him. Northside Racing is down to the lane. They are also getting a driver change. It's going to be Phillip Villasden who's going to be joining them. And for the Hell Racers machine themselves, it's going to be Andreas Olsen into the machine now. And
actually, this Hell Racers car just caught a penalty. They get penalized for causing an incident with the 86, and they have to give the spot back to Project GT Ines. And actually, they're going to be able to, somewhat fortunately, Nolan, to basically just do this through the pit stop cycle. So they're not going to lose much time whatsoever, will Hell Racers. So interesting things here is everyone pretty much down on towards pit road, and SlowRacing.com Esports Team 2 will temporarily become a race leading car.
And there you can see it, Andreas Olsen just out of the pits now, right behind Berziable. He did a very wise move and actually chose to just wait until he left and then just follow him out. So very wise maneuver there from Olsen to lead him out. He's probably not going to be thanking Hampus Baz, though, for losing him those few seconds of time. But, you know, that is the way team racing can go sometimes. So everything is shaping up. And like you said, temporary race leader. We'll have to see where things will be when we cycle through. Still got some drivers that are waiting to make times. And now SlowRacing.com Esports team is going to be down into the lane with Meraki Racing right behind them. And Team Hella Media currently going through the MG hairpin right now and looking to be insecure.
Nolan, these teams are at risk. Neither of these teams, actually, I take that back. Slow Racing is fine, but Meraki Racing, you said 45 minutes was the minimum, right?
Correct.
Well, there's 44 minutes on the clock.
Oh, dearie me. So, yes, that might catch the attention of race control. And I do want to turn your attention, though, up to the point because it looks like we've got a battle for the race lead. Anders Christensen under attack from Martin June for NAB Racing. The move complete in the run down to turn number 1. Christensen backing out immediately, not wanting to have any part of that. So it looks like, where in the world did that 20-second lead that the Porsche class had, where did that disappear to?
I'm not really, has everyone come down? I'm really confused. Let's see, NAB Racing had a really short pit stop, 31.
I think there's your answer.
They took
Team
tires,
Media, 20 seconds longer.
Obviously, yeah, because Hyla Media, they did their driver swap just now. NAB Racing, I think, did theirs. No, they just, okay, so Martin June has gotten in the car on old tires.
So a bit of a challenge there for Martin June, who did manage to get to the front. And look at the gap that he's already pulled on Anders Christensen for Team Media. That gap is just massive right now. It was only, you know, a few tenths behind at the start of the lap, but now it's 2 seconds and still growing. So despite being on old tires, Martin June, he is really putting the power down right now.
Yeah, you're right, and I love this call here from these guys to come out and double stint the tires, Nolan. It's still relatively early. Remember, when we started this race, the sun wasn't even up. This race is going to be done, and it's going to be basically 9:30 in the morning in sim time. Track temps really haven't changed since the start of the race. It's only 67 degrees Fahrenheit. That's up 6 degrees from the start, but you know, over the course of the full race distance, that's pretty much nothing. And I love this strategy call right by these guys. Gamble, you know, throw the dice on the tire strategy and get yourself out there as best you can. And I think it's really paying off for them. There might be, of course, like we said, driver swaps. Might be some pace advantage there as well, but NAB Racing looking really good, and a car we really weren't focusing on for the entire running of this race, I think, for the most part, Nolan.
So all of a sudden, NAB Racing has come out of nowhere, worked up 6 spots, and they are now in the race lead. So this is definitely not what we were expecting to see, but no doubt they're not going to be complaining about that at all. And it goes to show you that racing, you know, at the heart of it, it very much is a gambling sport when it comes to the strategies. And that was a gamble they took on the strategy. And, you know, oftentimes in this series, we see people trying to take gambles, and more often than not, it doesn't pay off. But this time, it looks to have worked like a charm.
Yeah, this is looking really, really smart. Another car that's actually, I think, run their way up the order well is this machine with Sven Demel. I think they're on the same strategy. Team Hugh Jass, they currently run 4th in the category. Sven Demel in the car. Thomas Ellison started, and it's Sven's job to get it basically to the end of the race. So we have a handful of cars doing this sort of strategy, Nolan, on the tires, and I think this car as well, Slow Racing, I think is doing something similar. Yes, they are. So we have a handful of cars on the old tires trying to stretch it this short stint to get to the end of the race.
Well, with just 40 minutes left, if you haven't double stinted those tires already, it is doable. A triple stint, well, maybe not so much. Out of a second, is heaped up again. Okay, I see that. So we can see you in a car down there pretty shortly, that I can assume. So a battle for second in your TCR class is starting to heat up as well. So Lucas Dolzer did lose the spot to Blake Neck for Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing on this lap. So Dolzer will be trying to maybe fight back and take that spot back, as, you know, with the final drivers seemingly out of the pits now, I think we're done on the scheduled pit stops for the day.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, we did have Raf Vanderlinden come into the chat and say, the YouTube chat, and say that Blake neck greater than him. So maybe this is why Blake ended up getting back in behind the wheel of this race car and doing it just like this. So regardless, seems like it's working out. Is there a chance that they can maybe chase down Team Husingfeld? It's only a 4.8 second margin. Let's check the lap gaps. Answer to that question is no.
Yeah, so Team Hoenschenfeld, despite losing some time in the pits, they are definitely still on a good charge. And still trying to keep on to that lead, and this would be back-to-back wins for Hoenschenfeld then in the middle of this race, is looking back to the battle for second, and they're trying to let sixth place Aaron DeBoy for Fisher Motorsports through, and having some struggles in doing so, but they're definitely not going to close that gap, especially if they keep fighting the way they are. Yeah,
you're right. I mean, the way that these guys are fighting, it's going to be relatively rough, but still, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. As you see that the SimRC car not really relenting on Alpine Star's Geodesic, even though they lost the spot. And you see some lap traffic in front of them. Not only slower class traffic, but that's actually an inter-class car that is getting ready to go a lap down. Let's see, I think the 135, I think, is what the number I saw as they streamed by. Actually, no, I'm not sure which of the TCR cars that is. I saw 1 and a 3, though, I'll tell you that. Yes, 135. So, that's going to make things a little bit hard for them trying to get through cleanly. It's not just a slower MX-5 that you can blow by. That driver's going to have to sort of facilitate the pass, and that's exactly what happens.
So Lucas Dolter might try to capitalize here. Oh, look out! Oh my goodness, Hell Racer's throwing it 3 wide up the middle. That is well, that was a move I did not expect to make. You would have thought he would have dug way to the right side, not try to go up the middle. There was barely a gap there for him, and he made his own, it would seem.
Yeah, he really did. He saw an opportunity and he took it, and that's a lot of times what you have to do. And we've seen that several times today, Nolan. When you see an opportunity around this racetrack, you go for it, to not move, to lose as little time as you possibly can, especially the situation Hell Racers is in. We know they're one of the cars that went for the longer pit stop strategy, and you can see the sort of pace differential. Look at the pace difference compared to that Fisher Motorsports car of Aaron DePay. I believe they're basically on the same strategy that a lot of your leading cars are. We'll confirm this, and yes, on the short stop. So that's the sort of potential pace differential these guys are working with on new tires. So even though it's a 37-second difference, there might be a big pace difference in the new tires. That said, why aren't we seeing that pace difference from your at one point leading car, the car that seemed like the favorite, Team Hyla Media number 61?
Well, it might have to do with some driver preference as well. You got to remember that, the cars are not always going to perform the same. At the end of the day, a lot of it can come down to the driving style, and everybody drives a little bit differently from each other. And I think that might be what we're seeing here, different driving style. We saw Raf Vanderlinden even say that Blake Neck was better than him in the car, which is why Neck hopped back in. So, it's not unheard of, and it seems like that's exactly what's happening here today. And Hell Racers, they're also in a unique situation because not only have they had some struggles this week, you got to remember they're fighting for a title fight as well, and it's still very, very tight. And at the moment, Team Hella Media, it's looking like they would be the ones to, take that points lead. And unfortunately for your leader in that the Murai Racing team, they are most certainly going to be losing out the lead in this race because they are so far down. They're in 12th place right now, so it's just the championship hopes for Murai Racing have absolutely fallen apart today.
Yeah, you're right. It's not gone very well for them, has it? Especially the penultimate round. And I kind of said at the start that if this is going to be, coming into the sort of the penultimate race, you have to set up that final race here at the second to final round, because if you have a bad race, it puts so much more pressure going into the final.
Absolutely. So, it's one of those things where you really need to set it up. Of course, you can't forget as well that, in that final race, there is a unique feature, which is in the middle of the race. Since it is a 4-hour race, half points will be awarded in that 4 hours for Interlagos. So, there's going to be 2 different points
double points
in that race as well. Not double points. There's going to be half the points are going to be served. There's going to be 50% points served out at the halfway point.
Oh, okay.
On the 2-hour mark. 50% points are going to be held out, and then it's going to be full points again at the end of the race. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this will turn out, in that race, as well as Dolter trying to find a way around, and he's going to have to yield here. He's going to look back to the left and barely finding room between the wall. He can't get much closer than that. trying to fight around the outside, down the hill into turn number 1. Both drivers bouncing off that rev limiter and side by side into 1.
Let's see, through turn 1, they're going to come and they're going to work the cutback here. SimRC, I think, would arguably have the advantage, but I've seen people hold strong on the outside before, but Geodesic can't get it done. Can they work the cutback, though, and get a run up towards the Honda hairpin? Let's find out for the 142. We'll ride on board with him here on the roll bar, and you see all over the rear bumper of that SimRC Audi, but I think he had to check up, Nolan, with that Porsche coming through. You see him scream through on the left-hand side. I think there was a checkup, and I think that's what prevented him from making a move down at the hairpin.
I could agree with you on that one. So it's again one of those cases of drivers trying to slam the other. It's definitely gotten really intense thus far, and there's not a whole lot of racing left in this one. You know, there just isn't a lot of time to make anything work here.
Yeah, you're right. Not a lot of time whatsoever. You know, you're kind of up against the wall. Your strategy's done and dusted. You got to get out there and just race with what you have and get whatever you can out of it. And right now, it's Alpine Stars, Geodesic Racing, and SimRC. They're wanting second out of it. They both are, and it's really hard for us to take our eyes off this fight. There are a couple other close battles up and down the field, but when you're talking second and third in one of these categories racing, that's where we need to keep the cameras pointed.
Oh, absolutely. So everything the way it's shaping up to be a really good fight, and I just noticed Kenny Rodriguez has been black flagged for causing a collision back on lap number 58. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that might have been the 193 graphite machine, if memory serves me right on that one.
I think you're right about that. So yeah, a little bit of a not great situation there for the number 69 car, but I mean, that's also a team that's already been well and truly down the order. I think they're currently 5 laps off their class leaders, so penalty for them isn't really going to lose them much.
It's a bit of a shame. You got to admit, you know, that 69 team, they've had a couple of run-ins already this race, and you know, it's unfortunately not much else here. And you know, they actually had just received a warning, you know, a little bit prior for more contact, and now it's going to be the same way here. So it's unfortunate to see that. With everything that's been going on, they've had so much troubles in recent times in the race, it would seem, and now they're subject to another penalty.
Yep, as these two continue, we keep watching second and third, just buried on top of one another. Seen them swap this position 2 or 3 times since the last round of pit stops about 10 minutes ago. These guys really not playing nicely with one another, really wringing the neck both out of their competitors and their race cars. Let's see what happens though this time on towards the front straightaway. We're gonna have, I believe that was the huge ass Audi to deal with. Oops, as I click one too many back forward, indeed it is, with Racespot's own David Haynes behind the wheel of that car. But yeah, nowhere near close to making a move into turn 1 yet.
So not quite close enough just yet, and now he's gonna have to try to find another way through. It's going to get very intense here as time goes on, and well, the way things are shaping up here right now, we're coming up to about half an hour left to go. So with all of this in mind, all these battles starting to shape up, may as well go on board with Blake Deck in Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing for our final RacespotTV fan immersion of the day. That was RacespotTV fan immersion, riding on board with Blake Neck for Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing in that battle for second place in your TCR field. Currently, Team Hoytjenfeld still leading that class by a significant margin, and that gap is, well, Randy, it's not looking like it's come down a whole lot. It looks like things are going to be very set as they are. 24-second gap, really too big to surmount in just 26 minutes left in this race. Battle is beginning to get closer, though, for your race lead. Team Helen Media is closing in to Taj Edwards in the Gold Racing Red Machine. That gap hovered at about 2 seconds right now.
Yeah, and I mean, we were seeing that car was really down on pace, but something actually, I think something just happened to that Gold Racing Team Red car. I'm not really sure what exactly, but yeah, that gap has inexplicably come way down. Or actually, wait a minute. What happened to NAB Racing?
Oh,
this was the leading car.
Oh dear, so NAB
They're
Racing.
lap 74. They had a 10-second loss. We're going to rewind this entire lap, Nolan. This was 2 laps ago.
So this was right when we went to our fan immersion, and NAB Racing had a very comfortable, what was a good 10-second lead at one point. So what in the world has happened to them? Oh, wide on the exit of 2, and it sent them around. So NAB Racing, problems for them, back into the sand. Luckily managed to get it rolling. But that is just cracked open your battle for the race lead here.
Yeah, we're going to watch this once again on board. You can see NAB Racing. Look at all the traffic that's graphite and FAC in front of them, FACH. And through turn 1, they get through graphite, and they're trying to make it stick on the outside. And not the first time we've seen this today, Nolan. Just a little bit too wide, clips the dirt, and car just snaps around on them. When you're at speed, you really have no traction out there on the grass. And a couple Porsches cycling through. I was trying to figure out where the lap differential was coming from, but what's going to be interesting with this is that NAB had been the quickest car out there on the racetrack. You can see a couple of laps have been slower. Of course, that 10-second time loss. We'll see what the lap time is this time as they get ready to come through. It was a 1:32.3 in the last trip around the racetrack, so we'll monitor the lap times. I'm really interested to see, Nolan, if we could end up with a nice little scrap here, maybe watching NAB Racing as quick as they were, run through and potentially fighting for the win with Gold Racing Team Red. 7 seconds they have to make up, but as fast as they were going, they might be able to do it.
Jean-Philippe Weed has been given a black flag. Unsafe driving, and this was on lap 58 in the pit lane. So that is, that's very unfortunate for them.
Which car
this
is that?
took place with, that was the number 12, the Real Pixel Motorsport machine. So stop and hold penalty for 60 seconds. And what happened was he overshot the pit entry and ended up on the wrong side of the pit wall, then reversed back around the pit wall to rejoin the pit lane, causing another driver to take avoiding action. So it sounds like something has completely fallen apart on lap 58 in our final pit stop sequence. Do you think you can work your magic on that one, Randy, or are we going to have to just leave that one to the imagination?
Maybe. You said it was a 112, right?
The 112, lap 58 in the pit lane.
Abracadabra.
Hey, presto, we'll have to wait and see if this one will be the one. This is most likely just crossing over onto lap number 58.
I'm trying to... I don't think I have their in-lap. Oh, wait. Oh, that's an out-lap. Don't worry, no one's seeing this. I probably shouldn't be doing that. Hugo would yell at me. Rewind cameras back further. Oh, okay, here we go.
There it is.
We'll rewind a little bit further back.
Well, here we go. So what in the world happened to Real Pixel Motorsport to bring down this penalty? It sounded like it was a case of overshooting the pit entry, and that's what happened, it looks like. Overshot the pit entry. Oh, yeah, big time.
See, when you said that, I assumed he was on the left. Yeah, reversing on the racetrack is a huge no-no.
Reversing counter course in real life, that would be an instant disqualification from any racing event at any level. Even in go-kart racing, you're not allowed to do that. So that explains the 60-second stop and hold. And
it was
the
Team
137
Hughes,
machine. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. So very close call for a couple of drivers in that one. And I can understand why Race Control would not be the happiest campers on that one.
Yeah, and I'm sure this is the car David Haynes is, I mean, this is the pit stop he picked it up. I'm sure upon watching his teammate dealing with this on pit entry, I wouldn't doubt if David's language was more colorful than his hair. But, man, that was, yeah, I mean, there's no other way to say it. There's not smart, especially, I don't think there's any reason, Nolan, that these guys would have been up against the fuel, you know, a tight fuel window. Like, I don't think there's any reason they couldn't have gone around another lap, because the limitation really wasn't the fuel. It was just getting on pit road and having enough time for your second driver to be able to hit the minimum, right? So they should have been able to go another lap. Yeah, that is something you can't ever do on the racetrack. I know it's something that a lot of people will be, oh, well, if I just reverse, I can just get to my exit where I want to be. But yeah, that's a very good way to get a ticket in real life. Actually, I do have a funny story about that. I got a ticket once. It was just a minor speeding ticket. I'm not that much of a fool. But in my traffic school, I did that so I wouldn't get points on the license, obviously. Someone there missed their freeway exit and did basically that on the freeway. And I was feeling a lot less dumb. My slightly over the speed limit in a school zone didn't feel nearly as bad as people reversing. One person actually turned around and went the wrong way on the freeway to get back to their exit in the middle of the night. So, yeah.
I've seen videos of that, and it's not you gotta wonder what's kind of going through the head at that point. But
air's
back
going
to
through
the
the
race. Fair enough. Going back to the race though, Nav Racing still trying to reel in Team Heli Media. Want to mention Taj Edwards, the Gold Racing Team Red. That gap is extended. It's up to 5.2 seconds now. Last time by at the line, it's 5.5 seconds as of right now. So he is extending that gap, and he's looking to stay. They did lose almost 3.5 seconds 2 laps ago, but all things considered, I think it's safe to say that Taj Edwards, he's looking to stay out there for now.
Yeah, something's happening to all these teams. I'm not sure what happened to Team Heli Media. They had a couple bad laps, but I mean, of course, it is just the creature of the traffic. With the Audis and the MX-5s out there, you're occasionally going to have laps where you get held up for 2 seconds here, 3 seconds there. It is going to happen, so maybe that's just what happened there. But man, for Anders Christensen, what a frustrating stint for these guys. And now I guess the next question is, how is our boys at NAB Racing doing? They're looking pretty pacey, 3 seconds over the last 3 laps game, or 2 laps game, excuse me.
So 2 laps in 3 seconds. That is a pretty substantial amount. Another battle to keep eyes on is an actual overall battle for 8th place. Aaron DePoy having to go on the defensive from Andrew Repkoff for the other Gold Racing Team machine. And right ahead of them is Bernd Ziebel for the Project GT Heinz machine. Yeah, this is a 3-car scrap. Project GT Heinz a little bit separated from it, but only by about an extra car length and a half. But yeah, still very, very tight as they fight here. And of course, the other thing we have to keep in mind, Nolan, we've almost semi-forgotten about it. This fight for second in TCR still very much on. SimRC have since gotten the second spot and have somewhat opened up a gap, but it's still under a second. 0.6 of a second as they roll down in towards turn 1. The slipstream brings it down to half a second, but Geodesic still within distance, I'd say, to get to SimRC and to definitely be a factor in this fight for the last 20 minutes. So a couple of cars still looking to fight. A couple battles still yet to be concluded with 18 minutes and exactly 30 seconds remaining on the clock. And the time, again, it is beginning to run on out. Andrew Repkoff having a go. And Aaron DePoy down the front straightaway, looking to get that inside line of the run down to turn number 1. They might go 3 wide of the touring car. They might have, they're not going to do it. And Frank Oosterhuis now they're going to go 3 wide at this contact, and oh no, DePoy around, sent around by a bit of an aggressive pass. The 85 machine into the grass over in turn number 2. The 85 car, it has all come, it's ended in disaster. 3 wide, and well, it was kind of inevitable when you saw them going 3 wide there with that touring car. Yeah, we'll go back to the 85 here, see exactly what was happening. You see the graphite through turn 1, they're not quite 3 wide yet, but it's going to be on the exit. You can, oh, and that's, I'm not going to lie, I think Graphite came across there. I got to agree with you on that one. So, you know, we saw Barcelona late race penalties, and I'm thinking it might be the same case here. So, you definitely don't want to see it, but that was 2 lead lap cars that were trying to fight through the corner. And that turn car wasn't really wanting to get out of the way. You can see Alpine, or the graphite machine, he was trying to keep it, kind of to the right side, but yeah, it looks like he came right to try to make the corner. I'm not sure if he thought he was clear or not, or if he thought he maybe had a bit more room than he actually did.
We'll rewatch it. Sorry again to everybody. Epilepsy warning if you're watching. Apologies for that, but I just want to watch this on board here with Frank Oosterhuis in towards turn 1. Just watch the steering wheel as he exits the corner, Nolan. That's going to be the indicator. He comes across, he tracks out. I don't know. It doesn't look like the steering wheel's got much input to the right, but TV cameras, he comes, definitely well off the track out point.
Yeah, that's a tough call that race control is going to have to make on that one, but it wouldn't surprise me if there was if that incident was reported to race control. So at the moment, things are looking pretty excited for, everything shaping up right now. The 142 car currently needs 3rd place to win that championship. So Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing's Blake Neck, if he can clinch 3rd place, the podium,
handily enough where they're running
in the R class, then he might be able to clinch that TCR championship today.
Yeah, you're right. And handily enough, that's exactly where they're at. So for Blake Neck, I mean, there's really no point for them to go after that Sim RC car. I don't think they have. Yeah, the next car is Full Send Racing 185, which is 9 seconds down the running order. You see the 112, that's flat traffic that's cycling through there. So for Blake Neck, really no reason for him to do anything foolish or aggressive trying to get to Sim RC in front of him. If a door opens, maybe try to step through it, but don't try to shove it open as some might do. That's a good way to get yourself to break your shoulder. That's not what we want to do. They say that Sim RC really wide through turn 2, but that should actually set them up for a nice little exit down here on towards Stoner, but I might be wrong.
Blake Neck, you got to remember, he's a good 9 seconds ahead of that 4th place car, so he has absolutely no need to push here. He was already 146 points ahead. Look out for Dolstern, who gets a little bit sideways. And but all Blake Neck needs is just hold on to that position right now, and he's going to have that 3rd place in the. Or sorry, not 3rd place. He's going to have that TCR championship in the bag for the season, because it'll be mathematically impossible for him to be run down going into the final race.
And look at this. We've been monitoring this fight, NAB Racing and Team Highland Media, and look, Martin June is absolutely flying, a 1.5 seconds quicker on his 82nd trip around the racetrack, currently working lap 83. He was a couple times quicker a couple laps before, but Martin is definitely, I think, the quickest Porsche on track right now, working down the front straightaway. This is where, if there's an opportunity, he's going to have to snag it with only 14 minutes left to go in the race. You want to get it done. He brought the lead down by a full second, I believe, this last trip around the racetrack. Martin June, I think, can potentially win this race if he can get around Team Highland Media 61 as quickly and efficiently as possible. But with under 20 minutes to go, under 15 minutes to go, Nolan, that 61 is not going to play nice.
No, absolutely. The time for playing nice was over about 15 minutes ago. It's time to, go hard on the defensive end. Right now, Martin June, he wants to try to find a way up there, and Highland Media's going to do it for him. They've gone off the circuit and keep it out of the tire barriers, but that has just allowed Martin June up and into 2nd place, and now to be able to try to run down Taj Edwards in that Gold Racing Team Red machine.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here exactly to Mr. Anders Christensen. We saw him at one point coming out. Of course, this was the leading car at the last pit stop, but pit stop strategy really coming into a part, and you see him he just missed the braking zone, I think, Nolan, didn't he? Just way too hot in, and that's what kicked the rear end around, just asking too much out of the rear tires, and that car ends up doing that little half spin. Now that's going to actually, they have basically actually settled in next to their teammates. Their teammates are a couple laps down, however, but now NAB Racing. Now the question is, let's do the lap comparison to the race leaders. They have been quick in comparison to Gold Racing Team Red. Gap is currently under 8 seconds. Martin has to be perfect with the traffic, and I think he needs Taj Edwards to have a little bit of trouble to have a hope, Nolan, but I don't think this is impossible.
No, absolutely not. If he can continue to reel in about a second a lap, he's going to catch him, pretty quickly, but they got only 12.5 minutes left to go.
He reeled in a second and a half last lap.
Oh, and right there, the Gold Racing Red Machine had a little bit of some trouble with TCRs. He's still having trouble with TCRs. That is what he needs right now, and that's not what Taj Edwards needs, though. He's trapped behind some lap traffic. Tuinkern and Movano going to get out of the way as they head into Siberia. That's the last thing Edwards wants to see right now, is more lap traffic that he needs to deal with.
Yep, huge-ass Porsche, by the way, has managed to slip their way up into third. Remember, this is one of the cars that's also on this same tire strategy. Nolan did not take tires at the final pit stop, and I think it's pretty easy to say, you know, this late into the second stint was, you know, coming towards 10 minutes to go, this was the correct call, unless there's a huge wall in terms of speed that these guys are going to hit in about the next 1 to 2 minutes. I think all those teams that stayed out, or kept the old tires on the race car, definitely made the right call. NAB Racing now, they work through the penultimate corner. Here comes some of that lap traffic. They're both side by side. You're 100% splitting the middle here, and he's quickly through. The MX-5 so far off pace that he's gone in just a blink of an eye. How much did he reel in this time? It was a 1.5 seconds last trip around the racetrack. This time a 34.4 for Taj Edwards, and Martin June is going to come down this front straightaway at a 32.9. Another 1.5 seconds in favor of NAB Racing. 6 seconds now is the gap.
This is going to get really tight here in the bit. He still needs Taj Edwards to find some more trouble with lap traffic, but right now, I'm looking ahead of Gold Racing Team Red. They've got a very clean track ahead of them right now, so it's going to mean all down right now to June, who flashes the headlights furiously. Get out of my way is the message right now from NAB Racing. They want to go, and they want to pick up a win today, but a single mistake, and it'll be all over.
Yeah, you're right. And, you know, you mentioned the fact that Gold Racing Team Red, maybe not a lot of traffic out in front of them, but there is still traffic in front of Martin June here. You see, I believe that's one of the Graphite Racing Audis you see in front of him. There's another car, or maybe 2 cars, currently on the run in towards Lukey Heights. So this is where all the traffic is going to come from, and where it is right now is in front of NAB Racing. They get caught up behind Graphite. Graphite needs to, you know, run in the racing line there. That is sort of the preferred line there. Now down in towards the hairpin here at Lukey Heights, and Graphite's actually going to work the cutback on him. So having to fight with lap traffic, I don't like Graphite really getting that racy with race leaders, but regardless, Martin June able to clear.
He's lost a lot of time, though. Because of that, he's lost over a second this lap to Taj Edwards. That might have just ended his hopes for trying to go for the lead. Now, he would need to reel in about 2-3 seconds a lap plus. And there's no way that's going to happen unless Taj Edwards now getting checked up behind the CXR Project Black Machine, who he almost sends into the grass as well. So everything is really kind of, you know, fluctuating back and forth with that gap back up to 7.5 seconds. I don't see NAB Racing closing it in.
It's hard to say. It's still so unpredictable. There is enough traffic. We'll go on board with Gold Racing Team Red, and we'll get sort of an idea looking up the racetrack. You can see there is more lap traffic in front of him. He's put 2 cars between himself and NAB Racing at the moment, and there's another one he's going to have to get through. That's actually, I think, the sister car to the CXR machine. The livery looks very similar. As I have a quick just look out in front, and yeah, there's 2 CXR cars out there on the track, but I think there's enough traffic that it might be a little bit of a problem. Where is he going to get that traffic, though? This could be a problematic spot to get it up the hill into Lukey Heights. He's not going to be able to get it here. That means he's likely going to get really close here at the hairpin, and that means he's going to be probably trapped behind this Audi for the last 2 corners. Unless he manages it perfectly, he's still stuck. Will he get through on the run into the front straightaway? I think only just. But that is going to tighten up his entrance into this final corner, Nolan. Going to be 8 minutes to go as they get to the stripe.
Just 8 minutes remaining, and Taj Edwards still getting that power down and trying to push it on, but he didn't gain as much as you might have thought. That gap is still over 7 seconds, so I don't think it's enough. I just do not think it's enough at this point. There's just too much of a gap, and with the gap still at about 7 seconds, or well, just below that now, I honestly cannot see it happening.
It's not a question of just raw pace, though. It's all on the traffic. I mean, look what's in front of this Gold Racing Team Red car. You have an MX-5 that is gonna potentially block them down into the hairpin. If that happens, it's gonna be a disaster. That's exactly what happens, and you have another TCR in front of them as well. So it's not just raw outright speed. You also have a TCR that's on the grass. We're gonna pretty much keep off of replays here unless this race-leading incidents more or less here in the final 10 minutes. This Audi might play a part as well. Maybe not as they come through in towards this sequence. It's going to be tight. It's all on the traffic, I think. I think there's no question that Nab is quicker. They just need the traffic to help them just that little bit. I think if the leading car gets held up by 2 or 3 seconds, I think Nab could reel him in.
7 minutes remaining in this one, and you got to remember as well, you know, driver error. We've seen it happen in later portions of this race. You know, unforced errors. It's been a factor in deciding these types of races before. And right now, though, Taj Edwards, he's been looking very, very strong. Working his way around the traffic and hitting his marks. He hasn't had a lot of issues recently. He's been very, very steady out in front. So, you know, maybe the potential for a mistake, but again, he's been running so well out there. It may very well come down to traffic, but at the moment, there just isn't a whole lot out in front.
I mean, he just lost 1.2 seconds, and that's my whole thing, is that, you know, that was a lap that looked relatively clean. I think Martin June is on you know, average about 7 to 8 tenths quicker per lap. Just if they were out there lapping by themselves, I think Martin is about that much quicker right now. So it's not big ass that Nab really needs right now in terms of the traffic. All it takes is one big checkup in order for Gold Racing Team Red to really get held up. You also see there is some Porsches in between your two leaders, and we'll just have a quick look through. There's an Audi that your race leader is coming up on, as well as the second one. That's David Haynes. They might reach David Haynes, but actually they may not, with only about 5 minutes left to go in this race. That is yet to be determined. But those, in theory, should be about the final 2 cars they get to. Maybe this MX-5 as well. That's a little bit up the road. So Nab Racing, 3 opportunities potentially for them to get held up, and Golden Racing Team, they're on the first of those hurdles they have to deal with right now.
Just 5.5 minutes left to go. Roughly,
and they're checked up. They're checked up on the run to the front straight,
and they got checked up big time by Fabian Alexander Baller for the Fox Autotech Sim Racing machine. And what has that done to that gap with our friends over at Nab Racing? Hasn't closed it in by a lot, but it's done a little bit more. There's a little bit more of a chink in the armor. If it's possible, we could pull out those lap deltas to see what the time was gained on the past couple laps, because it's really fluctuating so much. But you know, there you'll have it. Lost actually on 4 tenths, even though the Gold Racing Team Red did get checked up there, closing to like 1.1 seconds to the lap before and 7 tenths lap before that. But so overall, it is growing closer. Don't think it's going to be enough though.
Man, you need to have faith, Nolan. Have faith that things are going to be sick. But yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a little bit just too much time has run off the clock here for Martin June. I'm trying to have a look through if we have any other fights on track. The Sim RC and Alpine Stars Racing fight, that was close. That has separated itself. We do have Gold Racing Team White and Slow Racing Esports Team 2. Well, actually, no, we don't. The 76 is slow.
76 was slow and off the track, so something has just happened to them. They were racing with the huge-ass Porsche.
That's the
coming down
Hellraiser
through
Porsche.
turn number 1. It was the Hellraiser Porsche, and that was self-initiated. Just went completely off the track, ran way too deep, and they came back on. And watch out for the Audis! Oh no, that is not how you rejoin a track at all. And I spy with my little eye another little penalty that might have to come down post-race.
Yeah, we're gonna see here. I want to listen to the engine note as they roll through into turn 1. So they definitely they overshoot here. What does he do on the throttle when he's on the grass?
Well, you see downshifted down into the 4th gear, trying to counter steer, still downshifting, but definitely not hitting the brakes. He wasn't trying to slow down, trying to keep the speed up, and very clumsy rejoin there.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
sorry.
He wasn't on the throttle, so I'll give him the credit that he wasn't just like throttling through the grass. But it's one of those things, Nolan, you have to understand your situation. So I'm gonna pause here. I know we're in the closing moments of this race, couple minutes left to go, but when you're off the track here and you find yourself in this situation, you see that tire, there's a tire wall off your nose. You need to understand your risk. Yes, if you go left, you're probably going to get a slowdown penalty if you cut behind the tire wall. But if you go to the right, you're pretty much surely going to go through the grass and just spit up onto the racetrack and potentially get some big damage. And there is a little bit of car control you still have on the grass. I know it's not so much, but yeah, trying to force the rejoin like that and get back on as quickly as possible, not great. And that was the E-Team Brick car that was unfortunately the big losers there. Nothing they could really do about that whatsoever. We'll just check back in with our race leaders. And yeah, Martin June starting to get outpaced here as we have coming to 2 to go.
So at this point, Martin June, he can no longer rely on lap traffic. He's got to rely on Taj Edwards having some kind of spin. We are now 2 laps left to go in this race. Penultimate lap in the penultimate round for the Club Sport Series presented by DGFX. And, you know, it's been a very intense race so far, and it's been a bit of an interesting closing fight, and unfortunately traffic just did not play into the hands of Martin June. It's something that clearly Taj Edwards has just been overall better at trying to duck around the lap traffic, and he's prepared to bring GRT back down to victory lane here today.
Yeah, he really is, and he's done a great job of it. I mean, it's been an absolutely been an up and down race for them, haven't they? They were kind of the pole sitters, the early leaders. Then they kind of dropped out of it. They were running in that second, third window, and they just basically capitalized on other mistakes. They've just kind of run a flawless race. Otherwise, they've not made any serious errors that I can recall. I mean, their sister car did. The Gold Racing Team White car had that pit road penalty that really held them up and kept them from, I think, finishing better. But this group, the red car, they need to have their heads high. They're coming out. Definitely in it for the race win right now. Don't want to jinx them. Still a minute left, so knock on wood. My desk is wood, so we can do that. But yeah, these guys, they've driven a perfect race. There's not much I could really say.
Indeed. So, everything has been playing out beautifully for them. And I'm going to real quick mention something else. They are still in contention for that championship fight. They're currently 94 points behind Merkai Racing. They're sitting 6th place right now in the title standings. So they're definitely going to pass their sister car, and they're going to pass a couple cars. I think they're going to pass Racecraft Esports Slide as well, who actually is not in contention for this race at all. So they might very well end up in the top 5. They are going to end up in the top 5 in points at the end of this, and definitely in contention for the race win today. Is now, for the first time all race on the last lap of the race, the sun breaks out, and it's going to be a sunny day when Taj Edwards brings that car around, providing he does not have any more incidents.
Yeah, I think Barney showed up at the racetrack because Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, is now shining down on me as they work now in towards Siberia. Does GRT a little bit of brightness to end this race. They will work now off of Siberia and in towards these final sequence of corners. You see a slow Porsche? I think he's actually just wanting to let the leaders by. I don't think that car has an issue. But we're going to focus entirely here on Taj Edwards as just a few corners left to go up into Lukey Heights, down the hill in just a moment, dropping down in towards the hairpin. Pretty much 180 degrees around to the right-hand side. Now 2 corners left to go, Nolan, and 2 quick ones at that for the number 22 of Taj Edwards.
So Taj Edwards from the Gold Racing Team Machine. The sun is shining for the first time in the race, and very conveniently for the win today. Taj Edwards across the line, and he will take victory for Gold Racing Team Red for today's race in the 2.4 hours of Phillip Island. And now, a couple more classes still got to work their way through, one of those being the Movado Sim Racing Team, and it looks like they are going to be first on the list of cars that will cross the line. So the Movado team, they're just coming to the final corner now, and they are prepared to take yet another victory here in the club class. But most importantly, we know that they're going to win. So congratulations for Marcello Pajnan, who will take victory for Movado Sim Racing. Team Hohenfeld still leading in that class. And what's also worth noting as well, Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing still in 3rd, and they are most certainly going to be happy to win a title today if nothing else happens. Still got some battles though right ahead of them, but Team Hohenfeld, it has been a clinic for them as well. They are going to be rounding themselves to some of the final corners now and passing the pit entry just one more time for Michael Scholetter. who's going to come to the final corner to cross the line to take victory here in the TCR class.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely dominant performance from both Husingfeld and Movano. I mean, they pretty much, like you said, they just dominated both of those cars in that category. Did while the Porsche field was tightly contested and drivers and teams swapping the lead throughout the entirety of the race. The TCR field, not so much. Husingfeld, they were kind of pressured early, Nolan, but after the kind of initial round of pit stops and really quarter of the way through that first stint, they were kind of the clear favorites, and they just never got held up, never made a mistake, and they drove a great race to the 148.
But who's going to be celebrating the hardest today? Well, that's going to be Blake Knack and Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing. They finished in 3rd place in that class, meaning we are pretty darn sure that they have just won Season 3 for the TCR Championship in the Club Sport Series. So congratulations to Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing taking home a title today in that TCR class in the penultimate round in the 2.4 hours of Phillip Island. With all the drivers across the line, well, let's take it over to your race results. So it's going to be Gold Racing Team Red, who is going to be winning the race today by a solid 10.5 seconds over Nav Racing. The huge-ass Porsche and Sven Demmel having to settle for 3rd place. Team Hella Media down in 4th with Hell Racers in 5th place. Gold Racing Team White is going to be in 6th with SlowRacing.com esports team in 7th. Northside Racing in 8th, despite their difficulties. Project GT1.de in 9th. Fisher Motorsport down in 10th place with Aaron DePoy. In 11th place, it is the Rev Match Esports machine, who's going RB Scaleworks in 11th place with Fisher Motorsports, other Fisher Motorsports car. In 12th place, Team Hella Media in 13th. SRT Esports Breed in 14th with Murakai Racing in 15th. And Pancho Chero Sim Racing 83 laps down in 16th place. Randy, you have our TCR field.
TCR's Team Husingfeld 148 with a big victory. RacespotTV ClubSport will round out 2nd, and Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing, last car on the lead lap, also on the podium, and by the looks of things, rounding out the championship with still 1 race to go. Great run from them all year. Full Send Racing in 4th, Back Auto Tech Sim Racing in 5th, with VEC Sim Racing in 6th, PXR Project Black, Graphite Racing, Team Vikings, Mjolnir, and Full Send Racing 169. Round out your top 10. Element Sim Racing, Huge Ass, Full Send, German Sim Racing, E-Team Brit, VEC Sim Racing, Real Pixel Motorsport, TXR Project Black, Real Pixel Motorsport, Graphite Racing will round out the 20-car field in TCR. And you know what? I'll do the mini class as well. Movano Sim Racing Team winning in the MX-5, World of Sim Racing Team in 2nd, Huge Ass Mazda rounding out your podium, Tri Racing in 3rd, with Sabiki Racing in 5th, Tri Racing 4th, Sabiki in 5th, with TXR Project Black, Kiloeth Racing, and German Sim Racing rounding out the field. German Sim Racing did not make the start. Nolan, what a race that was.
Oh, absolutely. It was a very, very intense race from, all the drivers involved, and it was a really intense race. And, we had a couple of championships even that got rounded out here in this one as well. So, it's been a very intense race, and it does look like we do have a couple of drivers who are going to be coming on down to give us a little bit of a chit chat. So we'll get some of them in here real shortly here, Randy.
Yep. Before we do that, we're going to have a quick ad break. So do not go away. Quick ad break for us, and then post-race coverage coming in a couple of moments. We'll be back.
Well, we are back. Apparently, ad break did not go quite as planned. So, we're back here in Phillip Island for the post-race show. And Well, Randy, again, it was a very intense championship. Quite a few drivers, that are going to be talking with us here real quick. But that was a very exciting race. 2 hours and 25 minutes. Once again, Club Sports Series never failing to provide us with a good show.
Yeah, it was a fantastic race, and we saw a championship get decided. We still have one more race to go in this championship. It's going to be great, but man, this was fantastic.
Absolutely. So, what we may as well do is bring on a couple of the guys down and give them a bit of a chit chat with us. And to start things off, why don't we start things off with Frank Van Brandwyck, who came home in second place with NAB Racing. Frank, another 2 hours 25 minutes, another race in the books. And how do you feel about it?
Well, what a race! What a race! It was so exciting in the beginning of the race. It was so hectic, a lot of racing. So I really enjoyed it. So I was very happy with P2. Could have been P1, I think, but we had gambled a bit with the pit stop, took no tires. So that brought us to P1, but unfortunately with the older tires it was too difficult to drive the long run. So yeah, congrats to the 22 machine. They were just too quick. They were already quick in the qualifying, so yeah, they deserve to win.
Well, with everything the way that it played out, we did see you guys kind of had your own little bits of ups and downs as always in the race, but you did manage to come home in second place, 5 spots up from where you qualified. And you did mention you had gambled quite a bit with that pit stop strategy, not taking any tires, didn't quite play out for you. But when you do try to gamble at that, kind of what goes through the mind? Like, do you kind of think, what can I do in the long run? Or do you more think of, how will this affect us in the shorter run? And if we can maybe make something work later on in the race for us?
Yeah, so last race we were disqualified from the race. So therefore our championship was over. So for us, only a win doesn't mean anything at the moment. And the car felt pretty good on the old tires. So I said, let's go for it. It's the only way we can go for a win. So I think, I'm happy we took the gamble at least.
Well, despite it not working out, you did manage to come home in second place. And of course, next month on, I believe it was April 4th, we're going to be going again over to Brazil for the 4 hours of Interlagos. It's a bit of a wider track. It's definitely a shorter lap, though, too. So I guess quickly, what are your thoughts on, the season finale, which is going to be coming up over in April?
Yeah, looking at the entire season, it will be just plenty of action as well. So it will be with the slow corners, with the Mazdas and Audis. Yeah, there will be hectic. So yeah, it will be really fun. It's a good track anyway. So yeah, looking forward to it.
That is your second place finisher, NAB Racing from Frank Van Brandwyck. And before we let you go, Frank, is there anybody you'd like to shout it down? Who gets it done for the number 08 machine?
Yeah, Martijn, of course. He took the toughest part with the old tires, and he did a good enough job. Had some misfortunate, but he recovered very well with P2.
As Frank Van Brandwyck, one of your second place finishers today for the NAB Racing team. Thank you for joining us here, Frank.
Thank you.
And now, moving things down is going to be Taj Edwards, the driver to bring it home for the Gold Racing Team Red Machine to win the 2.4 hours of Phillip out of today. Randolph, you are standing by with Taj.
Yeah, I'm stood by with Taj. Taj, what a race for you guys, up and down. You guys had a couple interesting moments, of course, starting on pole, but you kind of got shuffled down P2, P3 early on. But tell me about your race, because you guys, were you expecting to come away with the win the way that final stint seemed to be shaping up?
Well, our race started pretty great. We got the pole. We knew we had the pace, but we got shuffled back after a couple of early incidents. But we kept the composure. We knew once we were in range of the cars ahead, we knew we could get them because we had the raw pace.
And how difficult was this track? I know typically a lot of times, we've seen this track historically pop up in some of these sports car events, and it's always a bit of a wild card circuit. It seemed to be a little bit nicer here with these categories because the pace differential is huge. In particular, there's not like a huge downforce level difference across all these cars. But would you say this is probably about the most difficult track on the schedule for the multi-class aspect of this series?
It's right up there, maybe close to Brands Hatch, but it has its own quirks. The third sector is the time difference between the TCRs and the Porsche is pretty close, and you can't outbreak them. So you got to be really patient in the third sector and pick your spots very carefully.
Final race coming up. How do you guys feel going into the last round of the championship?
We feel good. We'll put in the work. All our teammates, Jeffrey, Andrew, and Jean-Philippe, we did good work for this event. We'll do the same for the next one. Unfortunately, for the 22 car, we had a little bit of issue in Barcelona, so we didn't capitalize on points. Hopefully, we'll still be in the running for the championship come Interlagos.
All right, well, congratulations to you, Taj, and good luck to you guys as we head over across the pond. Well, actually, let's just say across the world to Brazil.
Thank you very much, and thank you guys for the broadcast as always, man. Excellent job.
Yep, no worries. Great job to you guys as well. Next up, we're going to have a talk with one of the drivers from our winning team in the TCR category. Maximilian Fritz is with Nolan Rempel.
And Maximilian, once again, Team Hohenschenfeld taking it back to victory lane. You guys won last month at Barcelona. Well, now you have gone back-to-back wins here at Phillip Island. So congratulations on 2 for 2.
Yeah, thank you. We had quite a good race. We could pick up the pace at the beginning, had a little bit of drafting with the 142, I think it was. Not sure right now. And yeah, afterwards, after Michael could get it a little bit away, we were able to secure some gap and bring it home.
Well, despite some of the smaller issues earlier on, you did have a very solid run, in the race, working up 3 spots to eventually win the race. And we got, of course, Interlagos, which is going to be coming up next month on April 4th, and that's going to be the season finale from the Team Hohenschenfeld garage. What do you think we can expect for you guys going into today? Because wouldn't it be something that maybe even go 3 for 3?
Yeah, we're trying, at least. I mean, you have to stick out of all the traffic stuff and just have a clean race, and then maybe you can get another win. So we're trying as hard as possible. We haven't been on the grid in the first race. In the second, we have been. Actually, we won the race as well, but got disqualified because we made a formal mistake. Something like that has never happened to us. But yeah, and now we're just giving all in and looking for each race and trying to secure another win.
And of course, going for the wins as always, Team Hohenschenfeld. Well, some things never change about that. So we look forward to seeing what performance you could bring for us, when we go over to Interlagos for that final 4-hour race. And before we let you go celebrate another victory with your team, who gets it done for that 148 machine?
Good question. I yet don't know. Because, it's always just-in-time decisions because we're all guys having our work out there, like most of us here, and it just depends on who's able to race. Hopefully, Michael is on the grid again because he's super lightning fast, and we'll see who's pairing with him. For myself, I'm out because I got on holidays and so I'm not racing in Interlagos.
Well, in that case, congratulations on the win and have a happy holiday then. Come next week. Thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
And it's Maximilian Fritz, your TCR winner. And now we are going to bring down Brandon Hawken, one of the drivers, for another dominating performance from the Movano Sim Racing team. Randy, you are standing by with him.
Now, Brandon, I'm not sure if you knew that there was a race today because it just seemed like you guys were just clear out ahead of the field doing whatever you wanted. But that was a pretty good race you guys had. I'm not sure if you're aware.
Oh, thanks, Randolph. Yeah, that was it was a really good, clean, respectful race from everybody, and I'm really thankful to have such good teammates at Movano. So it was a lot of fun. There was all the traffic was really nice, and it was just a good, clean, nice race.
Now, how are the MX5 traffic here for you guys? I mean, obviously from an MX-5 perspective. I know a lot of times we don't really see those cars, especially in a multi-class aspect, much anymore, and especially with that category going away from, I think, the Nürburgring 24 this year. We probably may not even see it outside of this championship. How difficult was it dealing with the Audis and Porsches around Phillip Island?
Yeah, it's always really challenging because the speed differential's so huge. Like the Porsches, they just come up on you in a hurry. And before the new tire model came out, we were about even with the other two classes in the turns. But now that the MX-5's on the new tire model, it's a lot slower in the corners too. So yeah, you got to be really careful, and you're pretty much looking in your mirror as much as you're looking forwards because the speed difference is so huge.
We're going to Brazil to end the championship. Call your shot. How many laps are you going to win that race by?
Oh my god! Well, I just hope we keep it clean and hopefully come away with the W. So I'm just looking forward to that. It's been a good run this season, and I can't thank everybody that runs the series enough. You guys for the broadcast and all of our competitors. It's been a good run.
Well, congratulations to you, Brandon, and good luck to you guys when we head to Brazil. Before we let you go, who gets it done from Movano Sim Racing Team 289?
All like pretty much everybody worked with the MX-5. Marcello, he's run most of the races with me, and Rasim, Moises, Luke. If I'm forgetting somebody, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of guys and a lot of work that goes into this. So I'm just thankful to have all them, and it was good race.
There he was, everyone. Brandon Hawken, driver of the number 289 Mazda MX-5 from Movano Sim Racing Team. Absolute dominant performance from them, and I don't think they could have done anything more picture perfect. 2 more interviews to go. First one, going to be back to Nolan for the driver of the 142, Raf van der Linden, who by the looks of things have wrapped up the championship here at Phillip Island.
So, Raf van der Linden, thank you for joining us today. You're on RacespotTV. Congratulations on the 3rd place for the Alpine Stars Majestic Racing. And as we understand it, congratulations on the TCR Championship for Season 3 of the Club Sport Series.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we don't have the official results yet, but the way it looks right now, yes, we did win the championship. I'm very happy about that. So.
Well, we saw it was a bit of an up and down day for a lot of drivers, especially in the TCRs. And, going into this race, knowing that you had to finish 3rd or higher, and you were starting 6th, you definitely managed to get that done. I did see your team got close a couple times with Lucas Dolzer and the other SRC Club Sport guys. Were you ever concerned about maybe getting involved in maybe incidents or even, potentially ending the championship right there, or leaving it open? Or were you just kind of thinking, stay back and just keep it 3rd and we could come around and win this one?
I mean, at some point you have to be able to rely on your competition to be competent enough to race side by side. Obviously, we did know we had a chance to win it on this race, so we were a little bit conservative. But yeah, I think hard racing is part of a championship, so that's.
Hard racing, as always, is definitely something that we like to see, and it's something that this Club Sport Series never ever fails to deliver. Final race is going to be coming up at Interlagos next month, and with the championship seemingly all wrapped up as it looks for now, what can we expect from you guys going into that final 4 hours of Interlagos?
Well, we're not going to take any risks, of course, but we can go even harder now. So we'll see what we can do.
And before we let you go to celebrate what is going to be a championship, not just a podium, who gets it done for the 142 machine?
Oh, well, we do have a couple guys that help us out quite a lot. We have Alpine Stars, we have GoPro, we have Turn Racing, SimLab, and ATK PLN, and of course the whole team that's behind us, the guys that are doing the setups, and of course my co-driver.
Oh, actually, well, now that you're in here as well, Blake Neck, we may as well ask one more question towards you. You ran the first and then the final stints of the day. With some of the traffic management from the start of the race and then at the end of things, you were looking a bit close yourself in a couple of those battles. How did you feel throughout this whole thing?
Pretty good. There was a couple of times where traffic didn't help us, but that's how it goes sometimes. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. But it was mainly just using the traffic to our advantage, especially in the last stint where we were very marginal on fuel.
Well, thank you, Raf, Van der Linden, and Blake Knack for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing, who we believe right now are the TCR champions for season number 3 in the Club Sport Series. Congratulations, you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And now, just one more interview to go, and it is, of course, going to be RacespotTV's very own David Haynes. Brandy, why don't you do the honors?
Yep, I'm stood by with David. David, you guys didn't seem like you were very fast. You didn't even really finish, and you didn't even finish inside of the top 10. How do you account for this performance?
I did nothing today and loved it. I made no overtakes on track, and yeah, it's great to, of the 4 times I've started a race in this series, be the first time I've scored points, so I'm delighted.
And we head over to Brazil, which of course means you're going to be at least technologically much closer to Hugo. How are you going to deal with that heartbreak, knowing that you are in some ways closing the distance to Hugo when you want to keep that distance as far as possible?
I don't think I'm racing next round.
Oh, well, that's fair enough. I'll just say this, David. Don't go away. I want to ask you something after the broadcast, but congratulations to you guys on the 12th place finish, and to you in particular for letting all of us at RaceSpot down. Before we let you go, who gets it done for everyone at Huge Ass and a Hungry Bear?
Man, all I can do today is give a shout out to my boys who are at VIR and have had a pretty rubbish day of it today. Chin up, guys. There's more races to go.
There he was, Mr. David Haynes from the Huge Ass Audi car. David will be talking to you in a little bit after the broadcast. But Nolan, that pretty much is that is a wrap actually on all of our interviews, and it's getting ready for us to wrap this thing up.
Indeed, and before we do wrap things up, of course, Randy, one more race to go. I think it's time for me to ask, well, what are your final thoughts on, this race and what the championship could come to? Because, of course, we still got that sport championship wide open.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much still in play here. I mean, you are going from a fireworks track at Phillip Island to another fireworks track at in Brazil. That circuit is very, very tight. There's been issues there in the past. A lot of fast corners. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some big issues with Porsches and Audis with the MX-5s. Do some of those faster sequences. You have the hard braking zone in turn 1. That's a potential trouble spot. You have the entire middle sector, really, the potential trouble spot as well. So maybe big problems around that entire racetrack, but it'll be a lot of fun watching these guys having to deal with that for the final round of the championship. And like you said, Sport Championship still completely wide open.
So 2 more championships still to be decided. That is the Sport Championship and the Club Championship. That's going to be coming all to a head on April 4th for the 4 Hours of Interlagos, the season finale for season number 3 here in the Club Sport Series. We thank you for joining us here for round number 5 in this Club Sport Series presented by DGFX. We also thank you for tuning in to RaceSpotTV on the iRacing Racing Esports Network. I've been Ola Ramble with Randy Chen, with beside me also operating the cameras. We'll catch you all in the next one.